दोस्त, एक ऐसी दुनिया जहां किलर व्हेल्स आपको गिफ्ट में फ्रेश शिकार ऑफर कर रही
हाँ,
हैं।
या ऐसी रियलिटी जहां आप दो लूजिंग गेम स्ट्रेटजीज को ऑल्टरनेट करके जीत सकते हो।
साउंड्स क्रेजी है ना? आज हम ऐसी ही हैरान करने वाली खबरों की दुनिया में घुसने वाले हैं।
दिस इज योर मंथली करंट अफेयर्स मैराथन।
And we've designed it to be the most energetic or memorable revision tool you'll ever need.
और हाँ, अगर आप चाहते हैं कि ऐसी नॉलेज पैक्ड डिस्कशंस आप तक आती रहें,
तो अभी इसी वक्त
वो सब्सक्राइब बटन दबा दो। इट रियली हेल्प्स द चैनल ग्रो।
तो आज का हमारा लर्निंग मैप कैसा दिखता है? इट्स अ बिग वन, सो बकल अप।
बिल्कुल, हम शुरू करेंगे इंडिया के फेडरल डिजाइन की इंपॉर्टेंस से।
हाँ, फिर ऑर्कस के स्ट्रेंज बिहेवियर को समझेंगे और फिर सीधे साइबर क्राइम की दुनिया में चलेंगे।
वो न्यूज में आए। रेडी हो फॉर दिस डीप डाइव?
चलो शुरू करते हैं। द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ इंडियाज फेडरल डिजाइन।
ब्रॉड माइक्रो थीम, इंडियन पॉलिटी एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन।
चलो सबसे पहले इंडिया के फेडरल डिजाइन को डिकोड करते हैं।
हाँ,
बेसिकली ये सिस्टम बताता है कि पावर सेंटर और स्टेट्स के बीच कैसे डिवाइड होती है।
एक तरह से इट्स द आर्किटेक्चरल ब्लूप्रिंट ऑफ आवर नेशंस गवर्नेंस।
राइट, समझे।
बिल्कुल, और इसका सबसे करंट एग्जांपल है द डिमांड फॉर द रेस्टोरेशन ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर स्टेटहुड।
अच्छा,
ये डिस्कशन मतलब सीधा हमारे फेडरल फीचर से जुड़ा है।
जो कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर है।
एग्जैक्टली, उनकी प्रोटेक्शन से जुड़ा है। इट्स अ रियल लाइफ टेस्ट ऑफ अ फेडरल प्रिंसिपल्स।
ओके, लेट्स अनपैक दिस प्रॉपर्ली। इंडिया का डिजाइन यूनिक है ना?
बहुत यूनिक है।
ये ना तो पूरी तरह फेडरल है जैसे थे यूएसए,
हाँ,
ना ही पूरी तरह यूनिटरी जैसे थे यूके। तो ये है क्या?
इसकी चाबी आर्टिकल 1 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में है।
ओके,
याद रखना, इट डिस्क्राइब्स इंडिया एज अ यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स।
यूनियन ऑफ स्टेट्स, नॉट अ फेडरेशन ऑफ स्टेट्स।
यस, दैट चॉइस ऑफ वर्ड्स इज फैसिनेटिंग। यूनियन शब्द एक स्ट्रॉन्ग सेंटर को दर्शाता है,
जिसका काम है देश की इंटेग्रिटी को प्रोटेक्ट करना।
करेक्ट। इसका मतलब है हमारा यूनियन इंडिस्ट्रक्टिबल है। किसी भी स्टेट को अलग होने का अधिकार नहीं है। नो स्टेट हैज द राइट टू सेसीड।
राइट, जबकि द फेडरल कैरेक्टर वो क्या इंश्योर करता है?
वो इंश्योर करता है अ फेयर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ रिसोर्सेज एंड पावर। हमारी डाइवर्सिटी को सेलिब्रेट करता है।
अच्छा,
और जेएनके के केस में यही आर्गुमेंट है कि स्टेटहुड रिस्टोर करना जरूरी है टू प्रोटेक्ट दीज वेरी फेडरल फीचर्स।
okay, here's where it gets really interesting, especially from a legal perspective. Article 3,
हाँ, आर्टिकल 3।
ये पार्लियामेंट को नए स्टेट्स बनाने, एरिया या बाउंड्री बदलने का पावर देता है।
राइट।
बट द सोर्स मटेरियल आर्ग्यूज कि इस टेक्स्ट के अकॉर्डिंग पार्लियामेंट कैन नॉट परमानेंटली डिग्रेड अ स्टेट इनटू अ यूनियन टेरिटरी।
ये बहुत क्रूशियल पॉइंट है इस डिबेट में।
बिल्कुल। सो मेंस जीएस पेपर 2 के लिए ये कॉन्सेप्ट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। सेंटर स्टेट रिलेशंस पर कोई भी क्वेश्चन इस फाउंडेशनल नॉलेज के बिना अधूरा है।
सही बात है।
नाउ पॉज एंड प्रैक्टिस सेइंग दिस अलाउड।
Okay. Article 1 describes India as a union of states, implying an indestructible union with strong federal features.
परफेक्ट। सो इन शॉर्ट, इंडिया एक यूनियन है ताकि इंटेग्रिटी बनी रहे,
हाँ,
लेकिन इसमें स्ट्रॉन्ग फेडरल फीचर्स हैं ताकि हमारी इनक्रेडिबल डाइवर्सिटी मैनेज हो सके।
कूल ना?
बहुत कूल। Why are orcas offering fresh prey to humans?
Broad micro theme, environment and ecology.
Next stop, orcas, जिनको killer whales भी कहते हैं। But here's a fun fact. They are basically the largest species of dolphins.
Right.
और हाल ही में ये इंसानों को फ्रेश शिकार ऑफर कर रही हैं। How strange and fascinating is that?
बहुत ज्यादा। रिसर्च में इस बिहेवियर को प्रोविजनिंग कहा गया है।
Provisioning,
मतलब
the act of offering food. This is being seen as distinct from their normal play behavior.
वाओ,
Imagine, तुम एक बोट पर हो and a massive orca comes up and offers you a freshly caught fish.
अनबिलीवेबल।
This isn't just a random act. ये उनकी इंटेलिजेंस और कॉम्प्लेक्स सोशल स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में बहुत कुछ बताता है। Okay, let's get into the core logic here. Orcas apex predators हैं, right? Top of the food chain.
बिल्कुल।
उनके सोशल ग्रुप्स मैट्रियार्कल होते हैं,
मैट्रियार्कल
यानी सबसे ओल्ड एंड एक्सपीरियंस्ड फीमेल लीड करती है। उनमें हाई कॉग्निटिव एबिलिटीज और सोशल लर्निंग देखा गया है।
सोशल लर्निंग मतलब वो एक दूसरे से स्किल्स और बिहेवियर सीखते हैं।
Exactly, जैसे एक कल्चर हो।
दैट इज फैसिनेटिंग।
If we connect this to the bigger picture, फूड चेन में सबसे ऊपर होने के कारण उनका हर बिहेवियर इकोसिस्टम के लिए मायने रखता है।
राइट।
ये प्रोविजनिंग बिहेवियर उनके एक्सप्लोरेशन नेचर का हिस्सा हो सकता है।
एक्सप्लोरेशन
यानी
अ कॉन्शियस अटेम्प्ट टू गेन नॉलेज अबाउट अदर स्पीशीज। इस केस में हम इंसान।
Wow, so they are studying us.
Possibly, prelims के लिए key facts important हैं. Orcas are dolphins, they are apex predators and live in matriarchal groups. ये points note कर लो.
Got it. चलो प्रैक्टिस करते हैं। Say this out loud.
Okay.
Orcas are the largest species of dolphins, exhibiting complex social behaviors like provisioning, which may be a form of exploration.
So, what does this all mean?
Orcas का ये अनोखा बिहेवियर उनकी हाई इंटेलिजेंस और क्यूरियोसिटी का सबूत है।
सिर्फ खेल नहीं.
बिल्कुल नहीं। They might be trying to understand us, which is a mind-blowing thought.
Truly mind-blowing. Inside the APK scam.
Broad micro theme, science and tech, cyber security.
अब बात करते हैं एक बहुत सीरियस थ्रेट की, the APK scam. APK का मतलब है Android Package Kit. सिंपल भाषा में ये एंड्रॉइड एप्स की सेटअप फाइल है,
जैसे विंडोज कंप्यूटर्स में .exe फाइल होती है।
एग्जैक्टली। सोचो आपके दोस्त ने व्हाट्सएप पर एक लिंक भेजा, गेट फ्री मूवी स्ट्रीमिंग ऐप।
Sounds tempting.
ऑफ कोर्स, यू क्लिक इट, अ फाइल डाउनलोड्स और आपने उसे इंस्टॉल कर दिया।
ओके,
बस स्कैम शुरू। यही है साइड लोडिंग।
और ये स्कैम डायरेक्टली आपके बैंक अकाउंट को टारगेट करता है।
हाँ, और इसका मोडस ऑपरेंडी बहुत क्लेवरली डिजाइन किया गया है।
ओके, Let's unpack this modus operandi step by step.
चलो,
Scammers malicious APKs भेजते हैं जब आप इसे साइड लोड करते हैं.
यानी गूगल प्ले स्टोर के बाहर से इंस्टॉल करते हैं।
करेक्ट. तो ये ऐप स्टोर की सिक्योरिटी चेक्स को बाईपास कर देता है. फर्स्ट रेड फ्लैग.
राइट।
Then the app asks for permissions, especially to read your SMS and contacts.
और लोग दे देते हैं।
दे देते हैं. And the moment you grant that permission,
इट्स गेम ओवर।
game over.
यार आपके बैंक ओटीपीज को इंटरसेप्ट कर लेता है और आपका अकाउंट खाली।
Oh my God.
और जो पैसा चुराया, इट इज देन ट्रांसफर टू टेम्पररी बैंक अकाउंट्स यानी म्यूल अकाउंट्स।
Mule accounts.
वहां से क्रिप्टो करेंसी में कन्वर्ट करके लॉन्डर कर दिया जाता है, मेकिंग इट ऑलमोस्ट अनट्रेसेबल।
Wow.
The sources also mention cybercrime hubs like Jamtara and Mewat in India or international origin जैसे China and the UK for this malware.
For your exam, this is a perfect real-world example. Digital literacy और cyber security पर essay या ethics paper GS4 में आप इसको यूज कर सकते हैं.
बिल्कुल। Key terms to remember हैं APK, side loading and mule accounts.
ठीक है.
Rehearse this. Side loading malicious APKs bypasses App Store security, allowing malware to intercept sensitive data like bank OTPs.
In short, अनजान sources से APK install करना is like
Handing over your bank account keys to a thief.
exactly. So always be super careful. Data shows seas rising faster around Maldives.
Broad micro theme. Environment and climate change.
अब चलो Maldives. New data shows that the sea level there is rising faster than the global average.
ये एक बहुत बड़ी climate warning है।
बिल्कुल. Sea level rise is not a future threat. ये अभी हो रहा है और कुछ जगहों पर at an alarming rate.
What's fascinating here is how scientists know this with such precision.
कैसे?
They use a very cool natural gauge, जिसे coral micro atolls कहते हैं।
Coral micro atolls. ये क्या चीज है?
ये Poraitis corals की disc-shaped colonies हैं। इनकी upward growth is limited by the lowest tide level.
अच्छा.
So the top of the coral acts like a fossilized record of the lowest sea level in the past.
कितना स्मार्ट है ना?
That is genius, truly. Here's the hard data. The sea level rise in the Indian Ocean is approximately 3.3 millimeter per year.
Which is significantly higher than the global average.
Yes, और ये acceleration 1950s में शुरू हुआ है। इसे climate drivers like El Nino और Indian Ocean Dipole (IOD) से जोड़ा जा रहा है।
Okay.
For your MCQ angle, याद रखना, the acceleration in Chagos, Maldives and Lakshadweep started even earlier than previously estimated.
Got it. Exam impact के लिए I guess ये data point बहुत useful है.
बहुत। क्लाइमेट चेंज के इम्पैक्ट पर आंसर लिखते वक्त ये स्पेसिफिक डेटा पॉइंट 3.3 मिलीमीटर पर ईयर इन इंडियन ओशन और कोरल माइक्रो एटोल्स एज अ नेचुरल इंडिकेटर का जिक्र।
आपके आंसर को एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स दिला सकता है.
Exactly.
It shows you know the specifics.
Exactly.
Practice saying this. Coral microatolls act as precise natural gauges, providing historical data on sea levels and revealing accelerated rise in the Indian Ocean.
Basically for low-lying island nations like the Maldives, sea level rise एक existential threat है।
और ये beautiful corals हमें उनकी कहानी बता रहे हैं.
सही बात है।
Shell structure, stars as onions.
Broad micro theme, science and tech, space.
Imagine a massive star as an onion.
Okay.
जैसे अनियन में लेयर्स होती हैं, वैसे ही मैसिव स्टार्स में डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स की लेयर्स होती हैं. यही है शेल स्ट्रक्चर थ्योरी.
बिल्कुल। इट्स लाइक अ कॉस्मिक फैक्ट्री। सबसे बाहर द लाइटेस्ट एलिमेंट हाइड्रोजन, उसको फ्यूज करके बनता है हीलियम,
Right.
व्हिच फॉर्म्स द नेक्स्ट लेयर।
Right.
देन हीलियम फ्यूजेस इनटू कार्बन एंड सो ऑन।
सो हेवियर एलिमेंट्स बनते जाते हैं लेयर बाय लेयर.
हाँ, जब तक कोर में आयरन ना बन जाए। आयरन के बाद फ्यूजन रुक जाता है because it consumes energy instead of releasing it.
And then
Boom.
a supernova.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists recently observed a specific type of supernova, a type ICN supernova named SN 2021YFJ.
अच्छा।
This observation basically proved the onion theory. Let me explain the core logic. The processes: hydrogen, outer shell, helium, carbon, basalt, iron core.
ठीक है।
जब ये सुपरनोवा फटा तो उसकी लाइट के स्पेक्ट्रम में एस्ट्रोनॉमर्स ने सिलिकॉन और सल्फर डिटेक्ट किया.
ओके, सिलिकॉन एंड सल्फर, ये तो इनर शेल के एलिमेंट्स हैं।
Exactly. इसका मतलब ये था कि स्टार फटने से पहले ही अपनी ऊपरी लेयर्स, द हाइड्रोजन एंड हीलियम शेल्स, खो चुका था.
It was like a peeled onion.
बिल्कुल. We were essentially looking at the inner core of the star just as it exploded. What an incredible discovery.
Unbelievable. For your science and tech section, stellar evolution से related concepts के लिए ये एक great example है. The term type ICN supernova भी याद रखें।
Right. चलो अब ये प्रैक्टिस करो. Massive stars have a shell structure fusing heavier elements in layers from hydrogen on the outside to iron at the core. A theory confirmed by observing type ICN supernovae.
In short, एक सुपरनोवा ने हमें एक स्टार के छिले हुए प्याज जैसा रूप दिखा दिया।
Confirming the shell structure theory of stellar evolution.
Correct?
A descent to safeguard the future.
Broad micro theme, Indian polity and constitution.
Okay, let's talk about the judicial process. Specifically, the Supreme Court collegium system for elevating judges.
ये सिस्टम चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया और सीनियर मोस्ट जजेस से बनता है।
Right, and it's responsible for appointments to the higher judiciary.
बिल्कुल। The criteria for selection are merit, seniority, integrity, and very importantly, diversity.
Diversity, matlab ensuring representation from different regions, genders, and marginalized communities.
Exactly. This is crucial because the Constitution states that the independence of the judiciary is part of the basic structure.
So, appointments must be free from executive interference.
Yes.
The source material focuses on the concept of dissent within the collegium.
Right. This is a very important part of its functioning.
कैसे?
जब कोलिजियम का कोई मेंबर एक प्रपोज्ड नेम से डिसएग्री करता है, तो वो अपना डिसेंट रिकॉर्ड कर सकता है।
अच्छा, इससे क्या होता है?
This ensures that the decision making is not monolithic. हर पर्सपेक्टिव को कंसिडर किया जाता है.
Which safeguards the future of the judiciary by making the process more robust.
सही बात है. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights the internal checks and balances within the judicial appointment system itself.
The goal is to maintain the highest standards of integrity and competence on the bench.
Correct.
The provision for dissent is a safety valve.
ठीक है. Rehearse this. The Supreme Court collegium system functions on criteria of merit, integrity and diversity, with the independence of the judiciary being part of the basic structure, and internal dissent is a key feature of its decision-making process.
So what does this all mean? The collegium system, including its provision for dissent, एक mechanism है
बिल्कुल.
designed to protect the judiciary's independence from external influence and ensure thorough internal deliberation.
बिल्कुल.
What is CEREBO?
Broad micro-theme, science and tech, health.
All right, let's discuss a fantastic piece of Indian innovation called CEREBO.
CEREBO.
ये एक indigenous, non-invasive brain injury diagnostic tool है जो near infrared spectroscopy यानी NIRS technology use करता है.
Non-invasive. That's key. Imagine an accident victim in a remote area.
Okay.
एक hospital with a CT or MRI scan घंटों दूर है.
Right.
Cerebro can detect intracranial bleeding or edema in traumatic brain injuries, TBIs, within a minute.
Within a minute? Wow.
It's a radiation-free alternative and incredibly useful in rural or emergency settings.
Especially during the critical golden hour, right after an injury.
Exactly. This is hugely significant for India's public health scenario.
क्योंकि road accidents are the leading cause, right?
They account for 60% of TBIs in India. A portable, rapid diagnosis tool like Cerebro can be a complete game changer in saving lives.
By enabling timely intervention.
Bilkul. For your exam, this is a perfect example of indigenous technological innovation solving a critical public health problem.
सही है. You can mention it in answers related to S&T, healthcare infrastructure, and even Make in India.
It checks all the boxes.
ठीक है. Practicing CEREBO is an indigenous, non-invasive diagnostic tool based on near-infrared spectroscopy, NIRs, for rapid detection of traumatic brain injuries.
In short, Cerebro is a life-saving device that brings advanced brain diagnostics to the point of care.
Especially where it's needed most in our country.
Correct.
Can an AI image-to-video feature put children at risk?
Broad micro-theme. Science and tech, ethics and regulation.
Now for a more concerning topic.
Okay.
Generative AI tools like Midjourney and Sora अब still images को videos में convert कर सकते हैं.
This tech is amazing for creative purposes.
But इसका एक बहुत dark side है.
The primary threat is the creation of CSAM, child sexual abuse material, and deepfakes.
Using publicly available photos of children from social media.
Yes, this raises extremely serious ethical and legal questions.
तो regulations क्या हैं इसके लिए?
India's IT rules require platforms to remove morphed content and deepfakes. EU का GDPR sets the age of digital consent at 16.
But the big challenge is enforcement. How do you police the entire internet?
सही बात है. One technological solution being developed is watermarking.
Watermarking.
Tools like Google Synth ID use invisible digital watermarks to identify AI-generated content.
अच्छा.
However, this is an arms race.
जैसे डिटेक्शन टूल्स बेटर होते हैं,
Right.
वैसे ही टूल्स टू क्रिएट अनडिटेक्टेबल फेक्स भी बेटर हो जाते हैं.
Exactly. For GS Paper 4 Ethics, this is a classic case of technology outpacing regulation in ethics.
The dilemma is how to foster innovation while preventing its misuse to harm the most vulnerable.
Correct.
Rehearse this. Generative AI's image-to-video capabilities pose a risk of creating CSAM and deepfakes, highlighting the need for robust regulation and detection tools like digital watermarking.
So what does this all mean?
The advancement of AI brings powerful tools.
But also a profound responsibility on tech companies and society to protect children.
Absolutely. Geographers uncover why some rivers stay single.
Broad, micro-theme, environment and geography.
Ever wondered why some rivers, जैसे Ganga in the plains, meander in a single channel,
हाँ.
while others, like the Brahmaputra, are braided into multiple, crisscrossing threads?
Right. Geographers have an answer.
And what is it?
It's all about a delicate balance. In geomorphology, rivers are either single-thread, meandering, or multi-thread braided.
Okay.
Single-thread rivers have an equilibrium between bank erosion and sediment deposition.
Balance.
हाँ. But multi-thread rivers erode their banks faster than they can deposit sediment.
अच्छा, इससे क्या होता है?
इससे river split हो जाती है into multiple channels to handle the water and sediment load.
Interesting.
Here's a cool factor. Vegetation plays a huge role.
कैसे?
Plants अपनी root से एक natural glue की तरह काम करते हैं. They stabilize river banks.
Okay.
Unvegetated rivers, on the other hand, tend to move downstream much faster, rather than meandering sideways.
This has a direct impact on disaster management?
बिल्कुल. For your MCQ angle, remember that braided rivers are inherently unstable.
And stable.
हाँ, इन पर artificial embankments बनाना actually flood risk को बढ़ा सकता है.
क्योंकि?
It disrupts their natural flow dynamics. Exactly.
ठीक है. Practicing this, single-thread rivers maintain an equilibrium between erosion and deposition, often stabilized by vegetation, while multi-thread rivers erode faster than they deposit, causing braiding.
In short, a river's shape is a dynamic dance between water, sediment, and the plants on its banks.
और इस डांस को समझना ही is key to living with them safely.
सही बात है.
All of India breathes bad air. AQLI 2025.
Broad micro-theme, environment and health.
This is a sobering one, dost. According to the Air Quality Life Index AQLI 2025 report from the University of Chicago, literally all of India's population lives in areas that exceed the WHO's annual PM 2.5 safety limit.
all of India, that's by shocking.
Let's break down that data. 100% of our population is above the WHO limit of 5 micrograms per cubic meter.
100%.
And 46% exceed India's own more lenient national standard of 40 micrograms per cubic meter.
So what's the real-world impact?
Particulate pollution is the single greatest threat to life expectancy in South Asia.
The single greatest threat?
Yes, it reduces it by about 5 years on average. This is more than smoking, malnutrition, or any other single factor. It's a massive public health crisis.
That's terrifying. But there must be some hope.
There is a ray of hope in the report. It provides a comparison with China.
अच्छा, चाइना ने क्या किया?
China ने अपना pollution 40% से reduce किया है since 2014.
40%?
Yes.
कैसे?
Through very strict policy controls and enforcement. This shows that concerted action can yield dramatic results. It's a solvable problem.
सही बात है.
For GS Paper 3, this report provides crucial data points to quote.
हाँ, when discussing environmental degradation and public health. और China का comparison is a powerful example of policy effectiveness you can use.
Bilkul. Rehearse this. The AQLI report states that particulate pollution is the greatest threat to life expectancy in South Asia, reducing it by an average of 5 years, but the example of China shows it's a reversible trend.
In short, India is facing a severe public health crisis due to air pollution.
But the experience of other nations shows that this is a solvable problem with strong political will.
Yes.
Decoding the SC order on regulatory assets.
Broad micro theme? Economy.
Okay, let's get into a slightly technical but very important economic topic. Regulatory assets of DISCOMs.
Yani power distribution companies.
Correct.
First, what are regulatory assets or RA? Simply put, it's a promise on paper.
A promise.
हाँ, जब इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सप्लाई का की एक्चुअल कॉस्ट उस टैरिफ से ज्यादा होती है जो एक डिस्कॉम चार्ज कर सकता है,
Okay.
तो रेगुलेटर इस गैप को एक एसेट के रूप में एक्सेप्ट करता है.
जिसे फ्यूचर में कंज्यूमर से रिकवर किया जा सकता है थ्रू हायर टैरिफ्स.
Exactly. It's basically a deferred cost, an IOU from the public.
तो इसका इक्वेशन क्या है?
Simple है. RA is equal to average cost of supply, ACS, annual revenue requirement, ARR.
ठीक है.
प्रॉब्लम क्या है इसमें?
प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जब ये RAs बहुत हाई हो जाते हैं तो डिस्कॉम्स के लिए सिवियर कैश फ्लो इश्यूज कॉज करते हैं.
उनके पास पैसा नहीं होता.
Exactly.
Which means they can't invest in modernizing the grid or reducing losses.
This is where the Supreme Court stepped in with a landmark order.
हाँ, SC ने नए RAs क्रिएट करने पर एक कैप लगा दिया है.
कितना?
DISCOMs and the state governments.
जो अक्सर टैरिफ हाइक्स को सप्रेस करते हैं for political reasons.
Sahi. Practicing this, regulatory assets are deferred costs for DISCOMs, and the Supreme Court has capped their creation to improve the financial health of the sector and prevent future tariff shocks.
In short, the Supreme Court is trying to fix the broken financial backbone of India's power distribution sector.
By putting a stop to the practice of kicking the can down the road.
Right.
Why is Indigo damped leased?
Broad micro theme, economy, aviation.
You might have heard about airlines leasing planes, but did you know there are different types of leases? Let's decode them. It's pretty interesting.
Go on.
There are 3 main types. First is a wet lease.
Wet lease.
Here, the lessor provides everything. The aircraft, the crew, both cockpit and cabin, the maintenance, and the insurance.
Sab kuch.
The acronym is ACMI. Think of it as a fully furnished, staffed rental apartment.
Good analogy. Second.
Second is a damp lease. This is a bit of a mix and match.
Okay.
Here, the lessor provides the aircraft and the cockpit crew, the pilots.
But?
But the lessee, जैसे इस केस में Indigo, provides its own cabin crew.
अच्छा, so it's partial. And third?
And third is a dry lease, which is the most common for long-term arrangements.
इसमें क्या होता है?
The lessor provides only the aircraft. Everything else, crew, maintenance, operations, is the lessee's responsibility.
It's like renting an empty house that you have to furnish and manage yourself.
Perfect.
So why are we talking about this now?
Because there's a global shortage of planes and engines.
Partly due to issues with Pratt & Whitney engines, right?
Correct.
This is forcing Indian carriers to use these different leasing options, including damp leases with foreign aircraft, just to meet the high passenger demand.
This is a great example for understanding the operational side of the aviation industry.
हाँ, or the global supply chain challenges it faces.
Now, ठीक है. Rehearse the 3 types.
Wet lease is ACMI, aircraft crew maintenance insurance. Damp lease is aircraft plus cockpit crew. And dry lease is just the aircraft.
In short,
leasing is a critical tool for airlines to manage their fleet.
And the type of lease they choose depends on their immediate operational needs and the prevailing market conditions.
Got it. Got it. OTP, please. Gig economy.
Broad micro theme, Indian economy and society.
Let's talk about the gig economy in India. हम सब Zomato, Swiggy, Uber जैसी services use करते हैं.
Rose.
हाँ, रोज. But what's happening on the other side of the app?
The scale is massive. Niti Aayog projects that India's gig workforce will expand to 23.5 million workers by 2029-30.
23.5 million.
That's huge.
But इस explosive growth के साथ कई key issues भी आते हैं.
जैसे?
First, there's algorithmic management. एक वर्कर की लाइफ, उसकी अर्निंग्स, उसकी नेक्स्ट जॉब, उसकी रेटिंग्स एक एल्गोरिथम कंट्रोल करता है जिसे वो देख या क्वेश्चन नहीं कर सकता.
That's unsettling.
Then there's the lack of social security. No provident fund, no health insurance, no paid leave.
Right.
The interactions are faceless, and there are often underlying caste and class dimensions in the service delivery. What's fascinating here is the contrast the source highlights.
Hi. A very sharp contrast.
It calls it an instant gratification economy for us, the consumers.
But for the worker, it's an economy of precarity.
Precarity.
Matlab?
Constant uncertainty, instability, and financial stress.
Wow. This topic is gold for your exams. For GS Paper 3 on Indian economy and GS Paper 1 on Indian society.
Bilkul.
It touches upon labor reforms, social security, and the impact of technology on society.
बिल्कुल.
Practice saying this. The gig economy in India is characterized by a conflict between consumer instant gratification and worker precarity, driven by algorithmic management and a lack of social security.
In short, the incredible convenience of our one-click orders.
Is built on a complex and often challenging reality for millions of gig workers.
सही बात है. How dead birds, old maps are helping scientists.
Broad, micro-theme, environment and ecology.
This is a fascinating story of ecological detective work. Scientists are using dead birds from museum collections and old maps to understand environmental change over centuries.
The location is the Nilgiri Mountains, a biodiversity hotspot in the Western Ghats.
Right.
And the method,
The method they used is called FARMA.
FARMA.
Stands for Field Abundance, Museum Abundance. It's a clever statistical method to compare the abundance of bird species from historical museum specimens.
Some dating back to the 1800s,
Huh.
with current field surveys of bird populations.
And the findings are shocking.
They are. There's been a 90% decline in grassland-specific birds, like the Nilgiri pipit,
90% or Q.
because there's been an 80% loss of their grassland habitat.
The culprits.
Invasive species like acacia and eucalyptus, and commercial timber plantations, which have taken over the original ecosystem.
Acha.
For your MCQ, the specific ecosystem under threat here is the Shola grassland mosaic.
Can you explain that?
It's a unique landscape of stunted tropical montane forests interspersed with rolling grasslands, found only in the high altitudes of the Western Ghats.
This is a powerful example of using historical data to quantify biodiversity loss.
Or to pinpoint its exact causes.
ठीक है. Rehearse this. The FARMA method compares historical museum specimens with current surveys to track biodiversity loss, revealing a 90% decline in Nilgiri grassland birds due to the destruction of the Shola grassland mosaic habitat.
So what does this all mean? The ghosts of birds in museum drawers are telling us a crucial story.
About the living ecosystems we are losing today.
Yes.
Should reservations exceed the 50% cap?
Broad micro-theme. Indian polity and constitution.
A very important and constantly debated topic, the 50% cap on reservations.
Let's trace the legal history, which is key to understanding this.
Please.
The relevant constitutional articles are Article 15 and 16, which allow for special provisions for backward classes.
ठीक है.
The story of the 50% cap really begins with the Indra Sawhney judgment in 1992.
A landmark case.
It is. This case capped total reservation at 50% and also introduced the concept of the creamy layer for OBCs.
Meaning the more affluent members of the backward classes would be excluded from benefits?
Correct.
Fast forward to 2022, the Janhit Abhiyan case.
This upheld the 10% EWS reservation for the economically weaker sections.
Crucially, the court said this was separate from and did not violate the 50% limit.
Kyunki that limit was only for the socially and educationally backward classes, SC, ST, OBC.
Right.
And in 2024, the Davinder Singh case saw an SC bench advocating for subclassification and the application of a creamy layer within SCs and STs as well.
Though the centre currently opposes this, the debate is ongoing.
Correct. The core concept here is formal equality versus substantive equality.
Can you explain the difference?
Formal equality means treating everyone the same. Substantive equality means providing affirmative action to create a level playing field and achieve true equity.
This is a core topic for GS Paper 2. Understanding the evolution through these key judgments is essential.
Absolutely. Practice seeing the key cases. Indra Sawhney, 1992, said the 50% cap. Janhit Abhiyan, 2022, upheld EWS reservation outside this cap. And Davinder Singh, 2024, is deliberating on subclassification for SC/STs.
In short, the jurisprudence on reservation is continuously evolving.
Trying to balance the principles of equality, equity, and representation in a changing society.
Right. How bail hearings take on the garb of a trial.
Broad micro-theme. Indian polity and law.
Let's discuss a critical issue in our criminal justice system, specifically concerning the UAPA.
The Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
Yes. The core of the issue lies in the extremely stringent bail condition under Section 43D5 of the UAPA.
What does it say?
It prohibits a judge from granting bail if there are reasonable grounds for believing that the accusation is prima facie true.
Now, what does prima facie true actually mean?
The Supreme Court's Vazatari judgment in 2019 clarified this.
Okay.
It stated that at the bail stage, courts cannot deeply scrutinize the evidence or check its admissibility.
Matlab, they must largely accept the police version of events as presented in the charge sheet at face value.
This has a huge real-world impact,
Bahut bada. It effectively turns a bail hearing into a mini-trial.
where the defense has very little room to challenge the prosecution's case.
Yes, the burden of proof is effectively reversed.
The result is that people can be incarcerated for years before the actual trial even begins.
Based on a case that might not hold up during the final trial.
The source highlights the key problem: low conviction rates under UAPA versus long periods of pre-trial incarceration.
This raises fundamental questions about liberty and the principle of innocent until proven guilty.
For mains, this is a critical analysis point for questions on judicial reforms and fundamental rights.
बिल्कुल Racers, under UAPA's 43D5, the prima facie true clause as interpreted by the Watali judgment restricts deep evidence scrutiny at the bail stage, leading to prolonged pretrial detention.
So what does this all mean? The stringent bail provisions in laws like UAPA.
They create a situation where the process itself becomes the punishment, regardless of the final verdict.
Sad but true. Majorana particles, quantum computer,
Broad micro theme.
science and tech.
Get ready for some mind-bending physics, dost.
Chalo.
We're talking about Majorana fermions. These are very special exotic particles that are their own antiparticles.
Their own antiparticles. What's so special about them?
Their potential application is in a field called topological quantum computing.
The next generation of computing.
Exactly. Here's why they are a potential game changer. They act as non-abelian anyons. Non-abelian anyons. Matlab?
Iska matlab hai information is stored non-locally, sort of split and smeared between two or more particles.
So to manipulate this information, you don't poke the particle directly.
Correct. Instead, you literally braid their paths around each other.
Weaving a quantum braid.
Yes, this non-local storage and manipulation makes the qubits, the basic units of quantum information, highly resistant to environmental noise.
And this problem of noise, which destroys quantum information, is called decoherence.
Right. To put it in contrast, traditional qubits, made from superconducting circuits or ion traps, are extremely fragile.
हाँ, बहुत sensitive होते हैं.
They require massive, complex error correction systems. Majorana-based qubits promise a much more robust and stable path.
Towards building a powerful quantum computer.
Yes, this is a high-level concept, but for SNP, just remember the key advantage, resistance to decoherence.
ठीक है, practicing this. Majorana fermions are used in topological quantum computing, where information is stored non-locally and manipulated via braiding, making qubits highly resistant to decoherence.
In short, Majorana particles offer a way to build stable, fault-tolerant quantum computers.
By hiding information in the geometry of their interactions, not in the fragile particles themselves.
Super cool stuff.
बहुत cool.
Sweden's forest base.
Space race.
Broad micro theme. Science and tech, space.
From quantum physics, let's go to the new space race in Europe.
Okay.
And it's happening in a very unexpected place. A forest base in Sweden,
The location is the Esrange Space Center in Kiruna, Sweden.
which is north of the Arctic Circle.
Iski significance kya hai?
It has the potential to become the first orbital launch site on continental Europe.
The first one. Why there?
Geography is key.
Yeah.
Its high latitude is ideal for launching satellites into polar orbits.
Polar orbits.
These are orbits that go over the Earth's poles. They are perfect for communication and observation satellites.
Kaise?
Because a satellite in a polar orbit can eventually scan the entire globe as the Earth rotates beneath it.
Smart.
Another huge advantage is that it has a large uninhabited landing zone, the vast frozen tundra.
For the rockets spent stages to fall safely.
Correct. Of course, Sweden is not alone. Its main competitor is the Andoya spaceport in Norway.
Jiska similar high latitude advantage hai.
Yes. For prelims, the location, Estrange Kiruna, and the type of orbit it's ideal for, polar orbit, are key takeaways.
This signifies a strategic shift as Europe tries to build its own independent launch capabilities.
Haan, reducing reliance on others.
Rehearse this. Sweden's Estrange Space Center is a potential European launch site, ideal for launching satellites into polar orbits due to its high latitude and safe downrange landing zones.
In short, the cold, remote north of Sweden is heating up.
As a key strategic location in the 21st century space race.
Sahi.
India-China, the making of a border.
Broad micro theme.
International relations.
Let's shift gears to a very complex and critical topic, the India-China border. How did this dispute even begin?
Exactly. Let's trace the history.
A key point to remember is that the border was largely undefined and undemarcated between the Manchu Empire in China and the British Empire in India.
This historical ambiguity is the root of the modern problem,
Yes, there are two key lines to know. First, the McMahon line.
which was defined in the 1914 Simla Convention and demarcates the eastern sector, Arunachal Pradesh.
And China never officially ratified it.
Right. Second,
Second is the Johnson line in the western sector, Ladakh, which claims Aksai Chin for India.
China has its own claims there based on a different line.
Correct. In 1960, a significant proposal was made.
By Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai.
He proposed a swap.
Swap.
China would keep Aksai Chin, and in return, it would recognize India's sovereignty over Arunachal Pradesh, then called NEFA.
And India under Nehru rejected this proposal.
Yes, a major shift happened in 1993.
Both countries signed the Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement, BPTA.
This was a crucial step because it de-linked the border resolution from other aspects of the bilateral relationship, like trade.
This allowed relations to normalize for over 2 decades.
But the core issue remained unresolved, simmering under the surface.
Understanding this historical context is fundamental for any analysis of current India-China relations in GS Paper 2.
Bilkul. Practice the key terms. The undefined border led to disputes over the McMahon line in the east and the Johnson line, Aksai Chin, in the west, with the 1993 Peace and Tranquility Agreement de-linking the border issue from other bilateral ties.
In short, the India-China border issue is a legacy of undefined imperial boundaries.
A major missed opportunity for a settlement in 1960 and a pragmatic but ultimately fragile agreement in 1993 to manage the dispute without resolving it.
Right.
Will Google lose its data moat?
Broad micro theme, tech and economy.
Let's talk about Google. A US court recently ruled that Google is a monopolist in the search market. This could have huge implications for the tech world.
The key term here is data moat.
A moat in a castle is a defensive barrier. A data moat is a barrier to entry for competitors created by having massive amounts of proprietary user data.
And Google's 2 decades of search data have given it an unparalleled advantage.
Yes, in refining its search algorithms.
So what's the proposed remedy? It's radical.
What is it?
The court is considering forcing Google to share its anonymized search query data with rivals like DuckDuckGo or Bing.
Wow. The idea is to level the playing field by giving everyone access to the same raw material.
But here's the twist, where the story gets more complex.
Okay.
The technology is shifting under our feet. We are moving from search engines that give you 10 blue links to answer engines powered by generative AI and LLMs like ChatGPT. Exactly. The analysis suggests that in this new AI-driven world, historical data may be less valuable compared to real-time user interaction feedback loops.
A process called RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Right. So even if regulators break Google's old data moat, the game might have already changed.
The new mode might be the ability to get and process real-time feedback, where Google still has a huge advantage with its billions of users.
This is a fascinating case study on antitrust law and technology disruption.
What's this? A US court is considering breaking Google's data moat by forcing data sharing, but the shift to AI-powered answer engines may make historical data less important than real-time feedback from RLHF.
In short, just as regulators are trying to tear down Google's old castle walls,
The company might already be building a new, more powerful AI-powered fortress.
how the antibiotic culture imperils mental health.
Broad micro theme, science and health.
We all know that overusing antibiotics can harm our gut, but new research is showing a strong and scary link to our mental health.
Let's explore the mechanism. It's all about the gut-brain axis.
Gut-brain axis?
Our gut and brain are in constant two-way communication, primarily through the vagus nerve.
Okay.
The trillions of microbes in our gut, our microbiota, are not just passive passengers.
तो वो क्या करते हैं?
They actively produce crucial neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which regulate our mood.
In fact, over 90% of our body's serotonin is produced in the gut.
Exactly.
Here's the threat. Antibiotics, especially broad-spectrum ones, cause dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis.
This is a severe microbial imbalance in the gut. They kill the bad bacteria, but also the good ones.
And this disruption is now being strongly linked to anxiety, depression, and even cognitive decline.
In India, this is a huge problem.
We have high rates of unapproved over-the-counter antibiotic use, which leads to AMR or antimicrobial resistance.
In 2021 alone, there were 2.6 lakh deaths due to AMR in India.
And now we see it has a mental health dimension too.
But is there a solution?
The hopeful new field to tackle this is called psychobiotics.
Psychobiotics.
This involves using specific probiotics and prebiotics to restore gut health with the aim of improving mental health.
This is an important intersection of public health, microbiology, and mental health.
Absolutely. Practice saying, the gut-brain axis connects our gut microbiota to mental health, and antibiotic-induced dysbiosis can disrupt neurotransmitter production, linking it to anxiety and depression.
In short, our gut is like a second brain.
And harming it with indiscriminate antibiotic use can have serious consequences for our mental well-being.
Right. From sounds to silence. Power of hearing implants.
Broad micro theme, science and health.
Let's talk about the incredible technology that allows people with severe hearing loss to hear again. There are two main types of implants we should know about.
Okay.
First, we have cochlear implants.
These are for people with severe sensory neural hearing loss.
इसका मतलब है that delicate hair cells inside the inner ear or the cochlea are damaged.
Correct.
The implant brilliantly bypasses these damaged cells and directly stimulates the auditory nerve with electrical signals.
Which the brain then interprets as sound.
Exactly.
Second type.
Second, there are middle ear implants. These are for conductive or mixed hearing loss. जहाँ problem middle ear bones, the ossicles में होती है. This implant is a tiny mechanical device that directly vibrates these bones to transmit sound vibrations to a functioning inner ear.
From a public health perspective, what's really crucial is newborn screening.
Absolutely.
Detecting hearing loss at birth is vital for early intervention.
If a child can't hear, it severely impacts their ability to develop speech and language skills.
Especially during the critical early years of brain development.
This highlights the importance of integrating advanced medical technology with public health programs.
Yes, to ensure a better quality of life for all.
Rehearse the difference. Cochlear implants bypass damaged hair cells to stimulate the auditory nerve for sensory neural loss, while middle ear implants mechanically vibrate the ossicles for conductive loss.
In short, hearing implants are modern marvels that reconnect people to the world of sound.
And early screening is the key to unlocking their full potential for children.
Sahi.
Rock's carbon storage capacity vastly overestimated.
Okay. Broad micro theme, environment and climate change.
Time for a reality check on one of our key climate solutions.
Okay.
We've been banking heavily on geological carbon storage.
जिसमें CO2 को capture करके deep underground sedimentary basins में inject किया जाता है.
Correct. The new finding is stark.
What is it?
A recent, more detailed study has found that the realistic global capacity for this is only around 1,460 billion tons of CO2.
That might sound like a lot, but
It's only 10% of previous, more optimistic estimates. We've vastly overestimated how much CO2 we can safely bury.
10%. So why the huge reduction? जैसे
जैसे seismic risks, injecting CO2 can trigger earthquakes. the presence of biodiversity hotspots on the surface that should not be disturbed.
And water depth, which makes many offshore sites economically unviable.
This has a major policy impact. It means that our reliance on CCS, or carbon capture and storage, to achieve net zero is very risky.
We can't just assume we can capture our way out of the problem.
Exactly. The primary focus must remain on cutting emissions at the source.
For GS Paper 3, this is a critical point to make in any discussion on climate change mitigation strategies.
Yes, it emphasizes a mitigation hierarchy.
First, reduce emissions, then, only then, think about capturing what's left.
Bilkul.
Practice saying this. The global capacity for geological carbon storage is now estimated to be only 10% of previous estimates due to real-world limitations like seismic risks, making direct emission cuts more critical than ever.
So what does this all mean?
There is no silver bullet for climate change.
We can't just sweep our massive carbon problem under a geological rug and hope it goes away.
Sahi baat hai.
How RNA, amino acids, may have linked up.
Broad micro theme. Science, origin of life.
Let's travel back in time, about 4 billion years, to the very beginning of life on Earth.
Okay.
Scientists have been grappling with a classic chicken and egg problem.
The problem is this. In our cells today, genes made of DNA or RNA hold the instructions.
But proteins, which are made of amino acids, do the actual work as enzymes.
Now, to make a protein, you need instructions from RNA. But to process RNA, you need protein enzymes. So which came first, the instructions or the machine?
That is a classic paradox,
The leading theory is the RNA world hypothesis.
which suggests that early life was based entirely on RNA.
Correct. RNA is special because it could both store information, like DNA,
Right.
and act as a simple enzyme, like a protein.
But a key missing piece was how RNA started linking amino acids together to form the first proteins.
Without the complex machinery like ribosomes that we have today.
Exactly.
The new discovery is a potential breakthrough. Scientists have found that simple molecules called amino acylthiols
Amino acylthiols.
can link amino acids to RNA directly, in water without any enzymes.
Wow.
This is a plausible chemical pathway that could have happened in primordial ponds or even frozen pools on early Earth.
This discovery provides strong experimental support for the RNA world hypothesis.
Or it gives us a glimpse into how the fundamental machinery of life might have gotten started.
Rehearse this. A recent discovery shows that amino acylthiols can link amino acids to RNA without enzymes, providing a plausible step in the origin of protein synthesis and supporting the RNA world hypothesis.
In short, we may have just found a plausible chemical recipe for how life's first chicken, protein, was laid by its first egg, RNA.
Yes. On the move with green hydrogen.
Broad micro theme, science and tech, energy.
India is taking a big step into the future of clean transport with hydrogen fuel cell trains.
The first route is planned between Jind and Sonipat in Haryana.
Right. Let's break down the process. It starts with green hydrogen.
An electrolyzer uses renewable electricity, like from solar or wind, to split water, H2O, into hydrogen, H2, and oxygen, O2.
The specific technology mentioned here is a polymer electrolyte membrane, or PEM electrolyzer.
ठीक है. Then inside the train, a fuel cell does the exact reverse process.
Okay.
The stored hydrogen is split into protons and electrons. The electrons flow through an external circuit, creating an electric current that powers the train's motor.
Meanwhile, the protons combine with oxygen from the air.
To form the only exhaust product, pure water vapor.
Pure water vapor. That's amazing.
This is a completely clean, zero-emission process from production to use.
Provided the electricity for electrolysis comes from renewable sources.
Correct. It's a key part of India's national hydrogen mission.
For your exam, understanding the two main components, the electrolyzer for production and the fuel cell for power generation, is crucial.
Bilkul.
Practice saying the process. An electrolyzer uses renewable energy to make green hydrogen from water, and a fuel cell then recombines the hydrogen with oxygen to produce electricity for the motor, with water vapor as the only byproduct.
In short, hydrogen trains are basically electric trains.
G. That carry their own clean portable power plant on board.
Exactly.
Snapshots. Science.
Okay.
All right, time for a quick round of science snapshots from September 7th. First up, rodents. It turns out the evolution of nails versus claws is linked to their diet.
Nails, like ours, are better for manipulating food, while claws are better for digging. Form follows function.
Cool. Next, the monsoon.
There's a fascinating teleconnection. Warming in North America strengthens a weather system called the North Pacific High.
Okay.
This, in turn, enhances the winds that bring moisture to the Indian monsoon. So weather patterns thousands of kilometers away can affect our rainfall.
It's all connected.
And finally, geology.
The powerful earthquakes in Turkey earlier this year had far-reaching effects.
They triggered dormant faults and even mud volcanoes in the Caspian region, which is over 1,000 kilometers away.
This shows how interconnected and stressed our planet's crust is.
These are great little tidbits for adding variety and depth to your answers, showing a broad awareness of recent scientific developments.
Good point. How much is spent on children's education?
FAQ.
Broad micro-theme, Indian society and economy.
A recent NSS 80th round survey has thrown light on household spending on education, and it reveals a persistent and troubling gender gap.
The data is stark and clear.
Across the country, families spend significantly more on the education of boys than girls.
How much more?
The gap is anywhere from 18% to a whopping 30% more for boys.
We can see this trend in school choices as well.
More girls are enrolled in government schools, which are free or low cost,
While a higher proportion of boys are sent to private schools.
which require higher fees and are perceived to be of better quality.
This spending gap is not uniform, right?
No, it's highest in urban areas and at the higher secondary levels.
Even in progressive southern states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala, which have better gender parity in enrollment rates.
The gap in spending still persists. This shows the bias is deep-rooted.
This is a classic example of social biases having a direct economic impact on human capital formation.
Correct. It's a critical issue for GS Paper 1, Society, and GS Paper 2, Social Justice.
Rehearse this. The NSS 80th round shows a significant gender gap in educational expenditure, with families spending 18 to 30% more on boys, particularly in urban areas and for private schooling, reflecting deep-seated social biases.
In short, even when girls are in the classroom, they often receive less investment,
J.
revealing a deep-seated bias that holds back not just individuals, but the entire nation.
Say, will the GST rate cuts boost the economy?
FAQ.
Broad micro-theme, Indian economy.
The GST Council has undertaken a major rate rationalization exercise.
Let's look at the key changes and their potential impact.
Okay, the Council has moved to reduce the number of tax slabs. The new proposed structure will be 0%, 5%, 18%.
And a new 40% slab for luxurious goods.
Yes. The goal is to simplify the complex tax structure.
A big change is that the compensation cess is ending.
जो states को revenue loss के लिए compensate करने के लिए लगाया गया था, it is set to end by 2026.
Several sectors will be impacted.
Yes. Life and health insurance have been exempted from GST.
Which is a big move to boost penetration and social security.
Cancer drugs and components for green energy have been moved to the lower 5% slab to make them more affordable.
What about the revenue impact?
There will likely be a short-term dip in revenue collections for the government.
And post-2026?
जब compensation cess end हो जाएगा, states will have to rely solely on the recommendations of the 16th Finance Commission for their revenue needs.
Increasing the importance of that commission's report.
Exactly. This is a key development in India's fiscal federalism and indirect tax regime.
Practice same. The GST Council's rate rationalization aims to simplify the tax structure with fewer slabs, with key sectors like insurance exempted, but it may cause a short-term revenue dip and increase states' reliance on the Finance Commission post-2026.
In short, the GST reform is entering a new phase of simplification.
But it also means states will have to become more fiscally self-reliant in the coming years.
Correct.
Is a shift underway in India's foreign policy? FAQ.
Broad micro-theme, international relations.
The Prime Minister recently attended both the SCO summit in Tenjin and the BRICS summit in Kazan.
This has led to analysis about a potential shift in India's foreign policy. Is India tilting?
What's the answer?
The core policy remains what it has been for a while. Multi-alignment and the pursuit of strategic autonomy.
It's about balancing ties with different and often competing power blocks to maximize India's interests.
Exactly. On one hand, India is a key member of the Quad, with the US, Japan, and Australia.
On the other, it is actively engaged with Russia and China through forums like SCO and BRICS.
But this balancing act is becoming more challenging.
How so?
India faces issues like the 50% tariffs imposed by the US, and at the same time, it has to navigate Western sanctions on Russian oil.
Right.
Within the SCO, India is trying to carve its own space by pushing for a new concept of civilizational dialogue.
Which is a form of soft power diplomacy in a forum often dominated by China's hard power.
Correct. So it's not so much a shift as it is a continuous, dynamic recalibration in response to a rapidly changing and more polarized global order.
The goal is the same, but the moves are getting trickier.
Sahi, this is the central theme of India's contemporary foreign policy for GS Paper 2.
Rehearse this. India's foreign policy is rooted in multi-alignment and strategic autonomy, balancing its engagement in Western-led groupings like the Quad with its membership in non-Western platforms like SCO and BRICS to navigate a complex global order.
In short, India is not choosing a side.
It is trying to be its own side by engaging with everyone to further its own national interest.
Bilkul.
India-China. The inability to define a border.
Broad micro-theme. International relations.
Continuing our discussion on the India-China border, let's look at the critical post-1993 agreements.
And where they failed.
Yes.
The 1993 BPT agreement was a landmark. For the first time, it formally referred to the Line of Actual Control, or LAC.
It also recognized the principle of mutual and equal security.
This was followed by the 1996 agreement, which focused on military confidence building measures, CBMs.
This included commitments like not conducting large-scale military exercises near the LAC.
And limiting the deployment of heavy weaponry.
But here's the critical point of failure.
Article X of the 1996 agreement.
What did it say?
It called for both sides to exchange maps to clarify the exact alignment of the LAC.
And this process started, but stalled in 2002. Why?
Because both sides presented maximalist claims that were completely unacceptable to the other.
So, what does this all mean? This failure to actually define the LAC on a map?
Created an indeterminate border. It left the line dangerously open to conflicting interpretations.
This ambiguity is the direct cause of the frequent face-offs, standoffs, and the violent clashes we saw in Galwan in 2020.
Exactly. The agreements were based on a line that no one could agree on where it was. Understanding the failure of the map exchange is key to understanding why the peace agreements ultimately broke down.
Absolutely.
Practicing this. The 1993 and 1996 agreements established the LSE and CBMs, but the failure to exchange maps and clarify the LSE's alignment as per Article X led to continued ambiguity and eventually conflict.
In short, the agreements built a house of peace on a foundation of ambiguity.
And eventually, that foundation gave way under pressure.
Right.
Lost in space. You might need just 2 stars.
Broad micro theme. Science and tech. Space. How do you navigate in the vast, empty blackness of deep space?
The usual method has a big limitation.
What's that?
Typically, deep space missions like Voyager or New Horizons rely on the Deep Space Network, DSN.
A network of giant radio antennas on Earth that tracks the spacecraft.
But the problem is signal delay. The farther the spacecraft gets, the longer it takes for signals to travel back and forth, hours, even days.
This makes real-time navigation impossible.
Correct. So scientists have developed a new autonomous method that is pure genius.
What is it?
It's called stellar parallax. It's the same principle ancient sailors used to navigate using the stars.
Okay.
You measure the shift in the apparent position of a nearby object against a distant background.
For a spacecraft, they would use 2 relatively nearby stars, for example, Proxima Centauri and Wolf 359?
By measuring the angle between these 2 stars from its current position and comparing it to known star charts.
The spacecraft can triangulate its own position in space.
Completely autonomously, without contacting Earth.
This method was successfully tested on the New Horizons probe, which is now far beyond Pluto.
This autonomy is crucial for future missions to the outer solar system and even interstellar space.
Rehearse this. Autonomous deep space navigation can be achieved using stellar parallax by triangulating the spacecraft's position based on the measured angle between 2 nearby stars against a distant background.
In short, we are teaching our most advanced spacecrafts to read the stars.
Just like ancient explorers, so they can find their own way through the cosmic ocean.
Cool, na?
Parando's paradox.
Broad micro theme. Science, game theory.
Here's a really counterintuitive and cool idea from game theory. Parando's paradox.
It will bend your mind a little.
Let's see.
The concept is simple, but profound. The paradox states that you can alternate between 2 different losing strategies.
Or the combined result will be a winning outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like taking 2 paths that both lead downhill, but by strategically switching between them, you somehow end up climbing the mountain.
This isn't just a mathematical curiosity, is it?
Bilkul nahi. It has a very important real-world application in cancer treatment.
Cancer treatment. How?
Tumors are very good at developing resistance to chemotherapy drugs.
Right.
If you use one drug continuously at a high dose, the resistant cancer cells will survive and multiply, and the drug will stop working. That's a losing strategy.
Okay.
Using Parando's paradox, doctors can alternate between a high-dose therapy, which is a losing strategy because of resistance, and a low-dose metronomic LDM therapy, which is also a losing strategy on its own.
By strategically alternating between these 2 losing strategies,
they can keep the tumor off balance and delay the development of drug resistance, leading to a better overall or winning outcome for the patient.
That is incredible. A fantastic example of how abstract mathematical concepts can have life-saving applications.
Yes.
Practicing? Parando's paradox is a game theory concept where alternating between 2 losing strategies can result in a winning outcome, with applications in cancer therapy to delay drug resistance.
In short, sometimes the best way to win
is to keep switching your losing game plan.
Exactly.
India-China, the need for a border settlement.
Broad micro theme. International relations.
Let's look at the next phase of India-China border negotiations, which happened in the early 2000s under Prime Minister Vajpayee.
This was a period of great hope.
Yes.
In 2003, a new high-level mechanism was established, the Special Representatives SR Dialogue.
This was a direct political dialogue aimed at finding a framework for a final settlement.
Correct. Moving beyond bureaucratic talks.
This led to a major breakthrough in 2005.
Yeah, with the signing of the agreement on the political parameters and guiding principles for the settlement of the India-China boundary question.
A key clause was Article 7.
Yes. It stated that in reaching a settlement, both sides would safeguard the due interests of their settled populations in the border areas.
Now, what does that mean?
This was widely interpreted as an implicit understanding that India would get to keep the populated areas of Arunachal Pradesh.
Including the strategically and culturally important town of Tawang?
Yes. In return, it was understood India would have to make concessions in the unpopulated Aksai Chin region.
The old swap idea in a new form.
Correct. But the positive momentum didn't last.
In 2007, China publicly reversed its stance.
And began reasserting its claim over all of Arunachal, including Tawang, despite the 2005 agreement's clause.
This showed that while a framework for a solution was ready, the political will was lacking.
Especially on the Chinese side, to actually implement it.
This is a crucial turning point to understand. It shows that even when a logical solution is on the table,
historical claims and nationalistic politics can derail the entire process.
Rehearse. This 2005 agreement's Article 7 on protecting settled populations implied India would retain Tawang, but China's subsequent reversal of this stance stalled the settlement process despite a workable framework being in place.
In short, the two countries reached the doorstep of a solution in 2005.
But they couldn't find the political courage to walk through it together.
Sad, but true.
How does 2FA work?
Broad micro theme, science and tech, cybersecurity.
We all use two-factor authentication or 2FA every day. But how does that little 6-digit code on your authenticator app actually work?
It's pure mathematical magic.
It is.
The mechanism behind it is called TOTP.
Time-based one-time password.
Correct. It works using 2 secret ingredients and a clever algorithm.
First ingredient.
एक shared secret key. जब आप 2FA setup करते हैं by scanning that QR code, your device and the server secretly agree on this long random key.
Okay. The second ingredient.
The second ingredient, the current time, which is updated in 30-second intervals.
So the shared key and the current time are the inputs.
Yes, they are fed into a cryptographic algorithm, typically HMAX SHA-256.
HMAX stands for?
Hash-based message authentication code.
Hashing is a one-way mathematical function.
You can easily turn the inputs into an output hash, but you can't go backward from the hash to figure out the original key.
It's a mathematical secret door.
Yes. It also uses a clever mathematical operation called XOR. The final step is called dynamic truncation.
Which chops down the long hash into the 6-digit code that we see.
Secret key, and the same time, they both generate the exact same 6-digit code independently.
But only for that specific 30-second window. That's why it's so secure.
Yes. Practice saying the key terms. 2FA uses TOTP, which combines a shared secret key and the current time using an HMSA SHA-256 algorithm to generate a time-sensitive 6-digit code.
In short, 2FA is like having a secret handshake with a website that changes every 30 seconds.
And only you and the website know the next move.
Perfect. A new neurons born in the adult human brain.
Broad microtheme. Science, biology.
For a long, long time, it was a central dogma in neuroscience that you are born with all the brain cells you'll ever have.
But is that really true? Let's talk about adult neurogenesis.
Adult neurogenesis.
The process of creating new neurons in the adult brain. The debate has been going on for decades with conflicting evidence.
We know it happens in many animals, like mice, but the evidence in adult humans has been controversial.
A new study seems to have finally settled the debate.
Kaise?
Using a very advanced technique called single nuclei RNA sequencing, scientists have confirmed the presence of neural progenitor cells.
Which are like stem cells for neurons.
Yes, in the brains of adults up to 78 years old. This process primarily occurs in a specific part of the brain called the hippocampus.
The brain's memory and learning center.
Correct.
So why is this so important?
These new neurons are believed to be critical for several functions. Learning new things, memory retention, our resilience to stress, and our ability to distinguish between similar contexts or memories. Think of it as constantly getting fresh hardware to store new information and experiences.
This has huge implications for treating neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
Bilkul. If we can find ways to boost this natural process of neurogenesis, we might be able to slow down or even reverse cognitive decline.
That's incredible news. Rehearse this. Adult neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, is now confirmed to occur in the adult human hippocampus and is crucial for memory formation, learning, and stress resilience.
In short, your brain has the capacity to rewire and renew itself throughout your life.
Which is a very powerful and hopeful message for brain health.
Absolutely.
Why was Indonesia rocked by protests?
Broad microtheme, international affairs.
Let's turn our attention to our maritime neighbor, Indonesia, with some massive protests recently.
What was the trigger?
There were a couple of key immediate triggers. The spark was an attempt by the government to override a constitutional court ruling on age limits and election thresholds.
This was widely seen by the public as a blatant move towards creating a political dynasty.
Yes, this was compounded by budget cuts for a popular free meal program while taxes were being hiked.
What's really interesting is the demographic of the protesters.
The protests were largely led by Gen Z.
And the movement was dubbed Dark Indonesia on social media platforms like TikTok.
This shows the power of a young, digitally connected generation in political mobilization.
But underneath these triggers lies a deeper, chronic economic issue. High inequality.
Indonesia has a high Gini coefficient, which measures income inequality.
Yes, there's a big gap between the government's grand vision of a golden Indonesia 2045 and the reality of austerity and economic hardship faced by many ordinary people.
This is a classic case study of how political grievances and economic discontent can combine to create a powerful protest movement.
Especially when amplified by a young demographic using social media.
Practicing, protests in Indonesia were triggered by moves towards dynasty politics and austerity measures and were largely led by Gen Z, reflecting underlying issues of high economic inequality.
In short, Indonesia's youth are demanding that the promise of a golden future
is not sacrificed for the political ambitions of the present elite.
Sahi baat hai.
Can the TN government break the caste-job nexus?
Broad microtheme, Indian society and social justice.
Let's look at a critical issue of social justice in Tamil Nadu concerning Pura Karmikas.
Yes. The core issue is the caste job nexus.
The vast majority of these essential workers are from the Dalit community.
This is not a coincidence. It's a historical injustice where certain hazardous and stigmatized jobs are tied to certain castes.
This nexus is perpetuated and worsened by modern labor practices like privatization and contractualization.
When these jobs are outsourced to private contractors, workers are often denied minimum wages, social security benefits, and job security. This traps them in a vicious cycle of poverty.
And reinforces the caste-based nature of the work.
Correct. So what's the solution?
The source points to regularization.
Meaning making these workers permanent employees of the municipal government?
Yes. This breaks the cycle by providing them with safety nets like pensions and health insurance, job security.
And crucially, the bargaining power that comes with being part of a formal union.
The Karnataka model is cited as a successful example where this has been implemented,
Sahi, this is a powerful example for GS Paper 2 on social justice.
showing how government policy can be used to actively dismantle entrenched social hierarchies and provide dignity of labor.
Yes, rehearse this. Regularization of sanitation workers, pora karmikas, is a key solution to break the caste-job nexus, which is perpetuated by contractualization that denies them social security and minimum wages.
In short, true social justice isn't just about reservations.
It's about ensuring dignity, security, and fair wages in every form of labor, especially those historically linked to caste.
Absolutely.
Lessons for India. Kerala urban policy.
Broad micro theme.
Governance.
India is urbanizing at an incredible pace, and we need new models for managing our cities.
The state of Kerala is offering some very interesting lessons,
The state has set up the Kerala Urban Policy Commission, KUPC.
which is the first state-level urban commission in India.
This is significant because it shows a proactive, planned approach to urbanization, rather than a reactive one.
Correct. One of the core concepts the KUPC is working with is the idea of a rurban landscape.
Rurban.
Kerala doesn't have the sharp divide between a dense city core and a rural village that you see in many other parts of India.
It's more of a continuous urban-rural spectrum.
A village-town continuum. The policy aims to manage this unique landscape holistically.
The recommendations from the Commission are very forward-looking.
They include climate risk zoning, for example, designing sponge cities
Sponge cities.
with more green spaces and permeable surfaces that can absorb heavy rainfall to prevent flooding.
Smart.
They're also proposing green fees and climate insurance using municipal bonds to finance urban infrastructure.
Sahi.
And creating data observatories that use modern tools like LiDAR maps for better evidence-based planning.
This is a great case study for GS Paper 2, Governance, and GS Paper 3, Urbanization.
Showcasing a data-driven, climate-conscious, and financially innovative approach to urban policy.
Yes.
Practice the key recommendations. Kerala's Urban Policy Commission recommends concepts like managing rurban landscapes, creating sponge cities for climate resilience, using municipal bonds for finance, and data observatories for evidence-based planning.
In short, Kerala is trying to write a new, smarter, and greener rulebook for India's urban future.
Bilkul.
Wood Wide Web, trees.
Broad micro-theme. Environment and ecology.
We often think of trees as solitary, competing individuals, but the reality is they're part of a vast, interconnected, and collaborative network.
Let's talk about the wood wide web.
The ecological term for this is mycorrhizal networks.
These are vast underground networks of fungi that connect the roots of different trees.
Even trees of completely different species.
Yes. Through this fungal network, trees can communicate using chemical signals and share resources like water and nutrients.
Trees are incredible terraformers.
They literally create the conditions for life around them. They build soil, they produce oxygen.
And they perform a process called hydraulic redistribution.
This is where large trees with deep taproots lift water from deep in the soil and share it with shallower-rooted plants through these fungal networks during a drought.
It's an act of community support.
It is. The source also touches on an interesting debate in science communication.
What's that?
It's the use of anthropomorphism, attributing human traits like love or caring to trees.
While this can be a powerful way to get people to connect emotionally with nature,
Scientists are careful to distinguish this from the actual evolutionary and ecological functions that are driving these collaborative behaviors.
this is a beautiful concept for essays on the environment, showing the deep interconnectedness and collaborative nature of ecosystems.
Yes. Rehearse this. Mycorrhizal networks, also known as the Wood Wide Web, are underground fungal networks that allow trees to share resources and communicate, acting as terraformers of their ecosystem.
In short, the forest is not just a collection of individual trees.
Wow.
It's a single, intelligent, and collaborative superorganism connected by a living internet of fungi.
Wow.
What is next for Indian football?
Broad micro theme, governance and sports.
Let's take a look at the governance issues that have been plaguing Indian football.
It's a classic story of conflict between the sports regulator and its commercial partner.
On one side, you have the AIFF, the All India Football Federation.
जो official regulator है, recognized by FIFA.
On the other side, you have FSDL, a venture by Reliance.
जो AISF का exclusive commercial partner रहा है for years and runs the major leagues like the ISL.
The core issue is the expiry of the Master Rights Agreement, MRA, between these two bodies.
The situation became so contentious, with allegations of mismanagement, that the Supreme Court had to intervene
And the court's primary goal,
to ensure that the AIFF's constitution is aligned with the National Sports Code.
जो all sports bodies in India के लिए governing framework है.
Yes, to ensure transparency and good governance.
The final outcome of the court's intervention was a mandate for an open and transparent tender process to select future commercial partners.
This is a significant move away from a long-term single-partner agreement towards a more competitive and accountable system,
This is a great case study on sports governance.
highlighting the challenges of balancing commercial interests with regulatory oversight, transparency, and accountability.
Practice saying, the Supreme Court intervened in the conflict between the AIFF and its commercial partner, FSDL, mandating an open and transparent tender process to align with the National Sports Code and ensure good governance.
In short, after a period of turmoil and legal battles,
Indian football is being pushed towards a more transparent and professionally governed future.
let's hope so.
Why does peace seem so elusive to Eastern DRC?
Broad micro-theme, international relations.
Let's travel to Central Africa, to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC.
A region that has been tragically plagued by conflict for decades.
The main actors in the current conflict are the M23 rebels.
This is a Tutsi-led group that is widely alleged to be backed by neighboring Rwanda, though Rwanda denies this.
But what is driving this endless conflict?
As is often the case, it's about resources. The eastern DRC is incredibly rich in critical minerals,
It has about 70% of the world's cobalt.
essential for the lithium-ion batteries in our phones and electric cars,
And coltan.
used in all modern electronics. The control of these mines fuels the conflict.
This local conflict also has a major geopolitical dimension.
Huh.
The United States and Qatar are trying to broker a peace deal.
Their strategic interest is to counter China's growing monopoly over the DRC's critical mineral supply chain.
So the global scramble for green energy resources is playing out as a violent proxy conflict on the ground in the DRC.
This is a textbook example of the resource curse for GS Paper 2.
हाँ, जहां a country's immense natural wealth becomes a source of conflict and misery rather than prosperity, entangled with global geopolitics.
May I ask this?
The conflict in eastern DRC is driven by the control of critical minerals like cobalt and coltan, involving actors like the M23 rebels and geopolitical players like the US and China vying for control over the global supply chain.
In short, the batteries powering our modern green world.
Are charged with minerals from a land that is known little peace.
Tragic.
Is Voter Adhikar Yatra making a difference?
Broad micro-theme, Indian polity and governance.
Let's look at the grassroots level of our democracy, the health of the electoral roll.
The source discusses the revision process, known as SIR, in Bihar.
There are two key functionaries at the booth level. First is the BLO, or booth level officer.
This is usually a government staff member, like a teacher or an Anganwadi worker, who is responsible for verifying the voter list on the ground, door to door.
Second is the BLA, or booth level agent.
जो एक political party appoint करती है to assist the BLO and ensure the list is accurate from their party's perspective.
The issue highlighted in the source is a breakdown in this machinery.
There have been cases of mass, arbitrary deletions of names from the voter lists.
The BLOs are often overburdened and not doing proper ground verification.
And the BLAs from political parties are showing weak engagement or sometimes absent.
This creates a lot of voter anxiety, especially among the poor and marginalized.
लोगों को डर लगता है कि अगर उनका नाम वोटर लिस्ट से डिलीट हो गया, तो they might also lose access to welfare benefits.
जो अक्सर वोटर आईडी से लिंक्ड होते हैं.
Yes, the Voter Adhikar Yatra, mentioned in the title, is likely a civil society initiative to raise awareness about these issues.
And help people get their names back on the list.
This is a critical topic for understanding the challenges in electoral governance at the micro level, where democracy actually happens.
Practicing the key roles, the electoral roll revision process depends on the ground verification by the BLO, booth level officer, and the active engagement from the BLA, booth level agent, appointed by political parties.
In short, the health of our democracy depends on the diligence of countless individuals at the booth level.
Ji. And when that system falters, it can disenfranchise the most vulnerable citizens.
Say,
What has WHO highlighted on mental health? FAQ.
broad theme, micro theme, health and social justice.
The World Health Organization has released some alarming statistics on the global mental health crisis.
This is silent pandemic भी कहा गया है.
Yes, the numbers are staggering.
1 billion people globally are living with mental health disorders.
And suicide is one of the leading causes of death among young people aged 15 to 29.
This is directly linked to the Sustainable Development Goals,
SDG Target 3.4.
which aims to reduce suicide mortality by 1/3 by 2030. The WHO report indicates that the world is currently way off track to meet this critical target.
In the Indian context, the government has launched the Telemanas helpline.
A 24/7 mental health service, which is a very positive step.
However, we face a severe shortage of professionals,
India has only 0.75 psychiatrists per 100,000 people.
whereas the WHO recommended norm is at least 3.
To make matters worse, the budget allocation for mental health is less than 2% of the total health outlay.
These statistics are crucial for any answer on public health infrastructure in GS paper 2 or 3.
They paint a stark picture.
Rehearse the India-specific data. India faces a severe mental health crisis with only 0.75 psychiatrists per 100,000 people and a budget allocation of less than 2% of the health budget despite positive initiatives like the Telemanas helpline.
In short, we are facing a silent pandemic of mental illness.
And our healthcare systems are critically under-equipped and underfunded to handle it.
True.
How has Gen Z forced changes in Nepal? FAQ.
Broad micro-theme, international relations.
Let's turn to our neighbor, Nepal, where Gen Z protests have had a dramatic and direct political impact.
The main event was a massive youth-led protest movement that actually toppled the government.
Following a controversial ban on social media platforms, especially TikTok.
This is a powerful demonstration of youth power in the digital age.
To understand the context, we need to look at Nepal's recent history.
The country adopted a new progressive constitution in 2015, becoming a federal democratic republic.
However, since then, it has been plagued by political instability.
It has seen a musical chair style of government, where prime ministers change almost every year.
Corruption and mass migration of youth for jobs are also major issues fueling public anger.
Correct. The source draws an interesting comparison with past movements.
Nepal has seen the Jan Andolan I in 1990 and Jan Andolan II in 2006.
Which were led by established political parties and brought about major political changes.
The key difference with the 2025 protests is that they were largely non-partisan and organic.
Driven by youth anger and organized spontaneously through social media.
This is an interesting case study on the changing nature of political movements.
And the growing role of youth and technology in shaping national politics in our neighborhood.
Practice saying, Recent Gen Z-led protests in Nepal, which were non-partisan and organized via social media, highlighted deep-seated issues of political instability and corruption, leading to the fall of the government.
In short, Nepal's youth, armed with smartphones and a sense of disillusionment,
Have shown that they are a political force that can no longer be ignored.
yes.
What are Foreigners Tribunal's new powers? FAQ.
Broad micro-theme, Indian polity and law.
There have been significant changes to the law governing foreigners in India, especially concerning foreigners' tribunals in Assam.
A new law, the Immigration and Foreigners Act, 2025, is set to replace the old 1946 Act.
Under this new law, foreigners' tribunals, FTs, which are quasi-judicial bodies unique to Assam, have been given enhanced powers,
They will now have the powers of a judicial magistrate of the first class.
which means they can issue arrest warrants and conduct trials for violations of the Act.
Yes, these tribunals are intrinsically linked to the National Register of Citizens (NRC) process in Assam.
They are the appellate bodies that decide whether a person who has been left out of the final NRC is a foreigner or a genuine Indian citizen.
Their decisions have life-altering consequences.
The new Act also contains some interesting exemptions.
Registered Sri Lankan Tamils who came before 2015 and minority communities from neighboring nations like Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan.
A provision similar to the Citizenship Amendment Act, CAA.
Yes, they are exempted from the penal provisions of the Act.
This is a complex and highly sensitive legal issue involving citizenship and human rights.
And the unique historical context of the Assam Accord.
Rehearse this. The new Immigration and Foreigners Act gives foreigners tribunals in Assam the powers of a judicial magistrate, linking them to the NRC process while also providing exemptions for certain refugee and minority groups.
In short, the legal framework for determining citizenship in Assam is being significantly strengthened.
In giving more judicial teeth to the foreigners' tribunals.
Correct.
Patient perceptions drive antibiotic use.
Broad micro-theme, science and health.
Why do doctors sometimes prescribe antibiotics when they know they are not needed?
For example, for a common cold, which is a viral infection.
Yes. A new study has a surprising psychology-based answer.
The study identifies a no-do gap in medical practice.
Doctors know that antibiotics don't work on viruses, but they still prescribe them.
The study found that the primary reason is not a lack of knowledge. It's the fear of losing patients.
The core finding is that doctors often have a perception that patients demand and expect antibiotics.
They worry that if they don't prescribe them, the patient will be dissatisfied and go to another doctor who will.
So they prescribe them to meet this perceived demand and maintain their patient base.
It's a business decision as much as a medical one.
The solution proposed is interesting. It's not about more training for doctors.
Because they already know the science.
It's about closing this perception gap.
This could involve public awareness campaigns for patients, teaching them that antibiotics are not always the answer.
And communication training for doctors on how to explain this to patients effectively. Major public health problems like antimicrobial resistance.
Yes. Practicing. A no-do gap in antibiotic prescription is often driven by doctors' perception of patient demand, not a lack of knowledge. Closing this perception gap through public awareness is key to reducing misuse.
In short, to solve the antibiotic crisis, we need to treat the doctor's anxieties about patient satisfaction as much as we treat the patient's illnesses.
Good point.
HIV strains in India resist.
Broad micro-theme. Science, virology.
HIV is a virus that mutates very rapidly, which is why developing a vaccine has been so challenging for decades. A new study has found that HIV strains prevalent in India have unique characteristics that vaccine developers must account for. The most common subtype or clade of HIV in India and South Africa is clade C.
The holy grail in HIV research is to develop BNABs, or broadly neutralizing antibodies.
These are special super antibodies that can target the parts of the virus that don't mutate much, the conserved regions.
And thus can neutralize many different strains of the virus.
The new finding is about how Indian strains of HIV respond to these BNABs.
The study found that Indian strains are resistant to antibodies that target a specific part of the virus's protective shield, a region called the V1-V2 apex.
However, they are susceptible to other BNABs that target a different part of the shield called the V3 glycan.
What does this mean in simple terms?
It means that a one-size-fits-all global HIV vaccine might not work effectively.
We will likely need regionally tailored vaccines that are designed to attack the specific vulnerabilities of the virus strains circulating in a particular population.
This research provides a crucial roadmap for designing an effective HIV vaccine for India.
It does. Rehearse this. Indian HIV strains clade C show resistance to antibodies targeting the V1-V2 apex, but are susceptible to those targeting the V3 glycan site, highlighting the need for regionally tailored HIV vaccines.
In short, to defeat a clever, constantly changing virus like HIV,
our vaccines need to be just as clever and regionally adapted.
Right.
In AI meeting tools,
Broad micro-theme, science and tech.
many of us are now using AI tools like Auto.io or Microsoft Copilot that promise to attend and summarize our long online meetings.
But there's a big limitation to be aware of before you start trusting them completely.
These tools use large language models, LLMs, for summarization. The biggest and most dangerous problem is hallucinations.
This is when the AI, in its attempts to create a coherent and fluent summary, simply makes up facts, decisions, or action items that were never actually discussed.
This can lead to serious miscommunication.
They also suffer from a lack of nuance and context. An AI might capture the literal words that were said, but it can easily miss the tone, the sarcasm, the unspoken agreements.
Or the subtle power dynamics that are often the most important part of a meeting's outcome.
Correct. The good news is that these tools are improving through a process we discussed earlier, RLHF.
Reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Yes. When users correct the AI summary or provide feedback by clicking thumbs up or thumbs down, they're actually training the model to become more accurate over time. So while these tools can be useful as a starting point or a first draft, they should not be trusted blindly. Human oversight and review are still absolutely essential.
Practice the key terms. AI meeting summarizers based on LLMs can suffer from hallucinations and a lack of context, but are gradually improved through reinforcement learning from human feedback, or LHF.
In short,
Your AI assistant can take the notes, but for now,
you still need to be the one to approve the final minutes of the meeting.
Sahi.
Snapshots, science.
Okay.
Another round of quick science snapshots from September 14th. First, AI in health.
A new study found that current algorithms are dangerously underestimating suicide risk. They have a high rate of false negatives.
Meaning they fail to identify individuals who are at high risk. This is a critical area where AI needs significant improvement.
Absolutely.
Next, ecology. The arrival of the first humans on the pristine islands of Fiji thousands of years ago led to a sharp and immediate decline in native ant species.
This was likely due to the introduction of invasive species, like rats, that came with the humans, disrupting the local ecosystem balance.
It shows how fragile island ecosystems are.
It does. And finally, a cool technique in biology.
Scientists are now using RNA sequencing of milk fat globules, tiny fat droplets found in milk, to study the genetics of lactation.
This non-invasive method allows them to understand which genes are active during milk production, with implications for improving both human infant nutrition and the dairy industry.
Interesting. Mosquitoes suck, but should we?
Broad micro-theme. Science and health,
Mosquitoes are, by far, the deadliest animals on the planet.
spreading diseases like malaria, dengue, and Zika that kill hundreds of thousands of people every year.
So the question is, should we just try to eradicate them completely? Let's look at the methods and the ethical debate.
First, a worrying trend. Due to climate change, mosquitoes are moving to cooler altitudes and latitudes, expanding the range of these diseases.
Okay. Now for the control methods.
One classic method is SIT, the sterile insect technique.
This involves rearing millions of male mosquitoes in a lab, sterilizing them with radiation, and then releasing them.
They mate with wild females who then don't produce any offspring, causing the population to crash.
A second, very successful method is using a bacteria called Wolbachia.
When introduced into Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, this bacteria acts like a vaccine for the mosquito, preventing the dengue and Zika viruses from replicating inside them.
So the mosquito can no longer transmit the disease to humans.
Correct. The most advanced and also most controversial method is using gene drive, powered by CRISPR gene editing technology.
This allows scientists to edit the mosquito genome to spread traits like infertility through a population.
Or even to make them produce only male offspring, which would cause the entire species in an area to go extinct.
This brings us to the big debate. On one hand, we have the immense benefit of potentially ending diseases like malaria.
On the other, there is the risk of creating an ecological vacuum.
Mosquitoes, despite being pests, are a food source for many birds, bats, fish, and frogs.
Eradicating them could have unpredictable and cascading consequences for the food chain.
This is a classic ethical dilemma in science. The power to intervene versus the wisdom to know when to stop.
Yes. Practice the methods. Mosquito control methods include the sterile insect technique, SIT, using Wolbachia bacteria to block viruses, and gene drives to spread infertility or cause population collapse.
In short, we now have the technology to wage a genetic war against mosquitoes.
But we must carefully consider the ecological peace treaty we might be breaking in the process.
Australia approves first vaccine. Koalas.
Broad micro-theme, environment and conservation.
Time for some positive news from the world of conservation.
Let's have it.
Australia has approved the first ever vaccine to protect its iconic koalas from a devastating disease.
The vaccine is for chlamydia. This is a bacterial disease that has been ravaging koala populations.
It causes severe health problems including painful urinary tract infections, blindness, and most critically, infertility.
Which prevents the population from recovering.
This is a critical intervention because koalas are now officially listed as endangered in several parts of Australia.
Their populations have been hit hard by a triple threat: disease, habitat loss from record-breaking wildfires, and urbanization.
So while the vaccination program is a very welcome and important step,
The source reminds us that the primary threat to their long-term survival remains habitat loss.
we need to protect the eucalyptus trees they live in and eat, not just the koalas themselves.
This is a good example of how modern conservation requires a multi-pronged approach: direct veterinary care like vaccines, combined with broader ecosystem and habitat protection.
Rehearse this. Australia has approved a vaccine to protect endangered koalas from chlamydia, but widespread habitat loss from wildfires and urbanization remains the primary long-term threat to their survival.
In short, we're giving koalas a much-needed shot in the arm.
But they also desperately need a forest to call home.
Sahi.
Is Apple's A19 Pro chip a game changer?
Broad micro-theme, science and tech.
Apple's new chips are always a big deal in the tech world. Let's look at what makes their new A19 Pro chip special.
And what it signals for the future of computing.
Yes. The key innovation is embedding dedicated neural accelerators directly into the GPU cores.
A GPU, or graphics processing unit, is a chip that's great at handling many simple tasks in parallel.
And neural accelerators are specialized circuits designed specifically for AI and machine learning calculations.
By putting these two together at the hardware level, Apple is pioneering a new approach called hybrid computing.
Fusing graphics processing and AI processing into a single, highly efficient unit.
What's the benefit of this?
First, it allows for real-time AI-powered effects in graphics like advanced ray tracing.
Which makes games and visual effects look incredibly realistic.
Second, and more importantly, it means that on-device large language models can run with much lower latency and power consumption.
This is a big deal for privacy. Instead of sending your data to a cloud server for an AI to process,
more of the work can be done securely on your own device.
this represents a strategic shift in computing architecture, moving towards more powerful and private on-device AI.
Practicing, Apple's A19 Pro chip uses hybrid computing by embedding neural accelerators directly into GPU cores, enabling real-time AI graphics effects and low-latency, private on-device LLMs.
In short, Apple is putting an AI co-processor right inside its graphics engine.
Making our devices smarter, faster, and much more private.
Cool.
Essay on anticipatory bail in caste crime.
Broad micro-theme, Indian polity and law.
The Supreme Court has delivered a significant ruling regarding anticipatory bail in cases filed under the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act.
The court upheld Section 18 of the 1989 Act.
This section explicitly bars the provision of anticipatory bail for a person accused under the Act if a prima facie case exists against them.
Just to clarify, anticipatory bail is a pre-arrest bail granted by a court, available under Section 438 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, CRPC.
The constitutional validity of this bar was challenged, but the Supreme Court upheld it.
Referencing Article 14, equality, and Article 21, right to life and liberty.
The court recognized the special nature of caste-based atrocities and the need for stringent measures to protect vulnerable communities.
The key case to remember here is Kiram versus Rajkumar Jiwara Jain.
The court also added an important constraint, similar to what we saw in the UAPA discussion.
It said that at the bail stage, courts cannot conduct a mini-trial to examine the evidence in detail or look for contradictions.
They are only required to do a prima facie verification to see if a case is made out on the face of it.
Correct. This ruling reaffirms the stringent provisions of the Atrocities Act,
which was designed to protect vulnerable communities from caste-based violence, intimidation, and social boycotts.
Rehearse this. The Supreme Court in the Kiran versus Rajkumar Jiwara Jain case upheld Section 18 of the SC/ST Act, which bars anticipatory bail if a prima facie case exists, and reiterated that courts cannot conduct a mini-trial at the bail stage.
In short, the Supreme Court has reinforced the protective shield of the Atrocities Act
by maintaining the strict bar on pre-arrest bail for accused individuals.
Right. What is involution that is plaguing Chinese EV sector?
Broad macro theme. Economy.
China's electric vehicle, EV sector, is a global giant, but it's facing a strange and painful problem called involution.
Let's understand what this fascinating concept means. The term is nejuan in Chinese.
Nejuan?
It refers to a situation of intense internal competition that leads to stagnation and diminishing returns, rather than real growth or innovation.
Think of it as everyone on a treadmill running faster and faster just to stay in the same place.
A perfect analogy. In China's EV sector, this is manifesting as brutal price wars and massive oversupply, where companies are bleeding money to capture market share.
The term has an interesting origin.
It was coined by the American anthropologist Clifford Geertz in his study Agricultural Involution,
to describe the wet rice economy in colonial Indonesia.
He observed that as the population grew, people worked harder and harder on the same patch of land, but the output per person didn't really increase.
A lot of shared effort for no real collective progress.
Correct. This internal problem in China's EV market is now being made worse by external factors.
The US has imposed heavy Section 301 tariffs, and the EU is also putting up trade barriers against Chinese EVs.
These measures are closing off export markets, which forces all the excess production back into the domestic market,
further intensifying the price wars and the involution.
Yes. This is a great concept to understand the internal dynamics of a hyper-competitive market,
and how protectionist trade policies can exacerbate them.
Practicing involution, or nejuan, describes intense internal competition leading to stagnation, as seen in China's EV sector through price wars and oversupply, which is being worsened by Western trade barriers.
In short, China's EV companies are trapped on a treadmill,
running furiously in a race to the bottom that benefits no one in the long run.
The conduct of social media companies.
Broad micro theme. Tech and governance.
Let's discuss the responsibilities and conduct of large social media companies,
especially in the context of internet shutdowns and content moderation.
From an international law perspective, this is very clear.
The UN Human Rights Council passed a resolution in 2016 declaring that internet shutdowns are a violation of international law.
Specifically the right to freedom of expression.
Yes, for content moderation, there are globally recognized guiding principles known as the Santa Clara Principles on Transparency and Accountability.
These principles call on companies to be transparent about what content they take down, why they take it down,
and to provide a meaningful and accessible appeal process for users whose content is removed.
The source also draws a contrast between different types of networks.
We have the centralized networks that we're all familiar with, like Meta and Google, which are easy for governments to block or regulate.
But there is a growing ecosystem of decentralized or federated networks like Mastodon.
And privacy-focused networks like Tor and I2P, which are much more resistant to control or censorship by a single entity.
This entire ecosystem operates under a business model that has been termed surveillance capitalism.
By scholar Shoshana Zuboff. The profit is made from collecting vast amounts of user data to sell highly targeted advertisings.
This is a core topic for understanding digital rights, governance, and the evolving architecture of the internet.
It is. Rehearse this. The UNHRC considers internet shutdowns a violation of international law, while the Santa Clara Principles call for transparency in content moderation, contrasting easily regulated centralized networks with censorship-resistant, decentralized ones.
In short, in the age of surveillance capitalism, a constant battle is being fought over our digital rights.
Violation of privacy. On platforms that are designed for profit, not necessarily for freedom.
Right. As the lights stay on, birds are staying up.
Broad micro-theme. Environment and ecology.
We light up our cities at night, creating a 24/7 world for ourselves. But what effect does this artificial light have on the natural world?
A new study shows it's seriously disrupting the lives of birds.
The key finding is that artificial light at night disrupts the circadian rhythms of birds.
Basically, their internal body clocks get confused.
They are staying active for about 1 hour longer than they should be.
The study found that birds with large eyes, which are more sensitive to light, are the most affected.
This has several negative cascading impacts.
It alters their breeding cycles, their migration patterns, and their position in the food chain.
For example, if they are active for longer into the night, they are also exposed to nocturnal predators for a longer period.
Correct. The source also mentions fireflies, which it beautifully calls the flagship species of the night.
Light pollution is particularly devastating for them because it hacks their communication system.
They use their bioluminescent flashes to find mates, and bright artificial lights can drown out these delicate signals, preventing them from reproducing.
This is a powerful example of a less obvious but pervasive form of pollution, light pollution, and its widespread ecological consequences.
Yes, practicing artificial light at night disrupts birds' circadian rhythms, affecting their breeding and migration patterns, and is particularly harmful to species like fireflies that rely on bioluminescence for mating communication.
In short, our 24/7 cities are stealing the night from the natural world.
Yes, with serious consequences for the creatures that have evolved to live in it.
Sahi. Greece revs up to face invasive fruit flies.
Broad micro-theme. Science and agriculture.
Greece is using a clever and somewhat old technique to combat a very modern problem.
Invasive fruit flies that are threatening its valuable agriculture sector.
Yes, the technique is the sterile insect technique, SIT, which we also discussed for mosquitoes.
It's a form of biological pest control, an alternative to spraying chemical pesticides.
You rear a massive number of sterile male insects in a lab and then release them into the wild.
They mate with the wild females, who then lay unfertilized eggs that don't hatch. This causes the pest population to crash over time.
The specific pests being targeted in Greece are the native Mediterranean fruit fly and the more dangerous invasive oriental fruit fly.
The project, called REACT, is funded by the EU and is being implemented in Nausa, a major food-growing region in Greece.
Known for its peaches and cherries.
Yes, there's a strong climate link here.
The warming climate is allowing these invasive Asian fruit flies, which are used to warmer temperatures, to survive the European winters.
This is expanding their range and making them a year-round threat to European agriculture, not just a seasonal one.
This is a great example of using a scientific, non-chemical method to adapt to the agricultural challenges posed by climate change.
Absolutely. Rehearse this. Greece is using the sterile insect technique, SIT, a form of biological pest control to combat invasive fruit flies, a problem that has been exacerbated by climate change, which allows the pests to survive European winters.
In short, to fight the modern fruit fly invasion,
Bilkul Sai.
Greece is sending in a classical Trojan horse of sterile males.
That's nice.
Overall,
Let's talk about that.
American politics as a powder keg.
Broad micro-theme.
International affairs.
Let's take a look at the social and political landscape in the United States, which the source describes as a powder keg waiting to explode.
One of the major long-term shifts happening is demographic. The 2010s was the first decade in US history where the white population declined in absolute numbers.
This profound demographic shift is a major undercurrent in American politics, fueling anxieties and culture wars.
The source mentions the VDEM, or Varieties of Democracy Index.
This is a respected academic project based in Sweden that tracks the health of democracies worldwide,
The index has noted a significant trend of democratic backsliding in the US in recent years.
pointing to weakening democratic norms and institutions.
The discussion also touches on key sociological trends that are not unique to the US but are very pronounced there.
These include extreme political polarization, the us versus them mentality, the rise of illiberalism.
A rejection of democratic norms, like accepting election results.
Yes.
And soaring income inequality, even as the country remains one of the wealthiest in the world. This is a snapshot of the complex internal challenges facing a major developed democracy.
With lessons and parallels for many other countries around the world, including India.
Practicing, the current political climate in the US is shaped by long-term demographic shifts, democratic backsliding as noted by the VDEM index, and high levels of political polarization and income inequality.
In short, the world's oldest modern democracy is facing some of its most profound internal challenges.
Driven by deep-seated social, economic, and demographic anxieties.
True.
Hidden human cost of artificial intelligence.
Broad micro-theme. Tech and ethics.
We often think of AI as just code, algorithms, and silicon chips.
There's a huge hidden human workforce that powers it. doing the work that machines can't yet do.
The term used for these workers is ghost workers.
They are the invisible labor force, mostly in developing nations, who do the painstaking, tedious, and often psychologically taxing work of data annotation and labeling.
Which is essential for training AI models.
Yes. Let's look at the process of training a large language model like ChatGPT. It typically involves 3 stages.
First is self-supervised learning, where the model learns from vast amounts of raw text from the internet.
Then comes supervised fine-tuning, where these ghost workers provide the model with high-quality labeled examples of questions and answers.
Finally, there's reinforcement learning, RLHF, where humans rate the AI's responses to teach it what is a good or a bad answer.
This work is often outsourced to countries like Kenya, India, and the Philippines, where labor is cheaper.
The source again mentions the Santa Clara Principles, this time in the context of calling for transparency and accountability in the labor practices of AI companies.
To ensure these ghost workers are treated fairly and paid a living wage.
This is a critical ethical dimension of the AI revolution for GS Paper 4.
The shiny, automated future is being built on the foundation of low-paid, often precarious, and invisible human labor.
Rehearse this. Ghost workers in developing nations provide the essential data labeling and feedback for AI training through supervised and reinforcement learning, raising serious ethical concerns about labor practices in the global AI supply chain.
In short,
Behind every smart AI, there's a ghost in the machine.
and it's usually a person in the global south working for a few dollars an hour.
Sad reality.
Portable ion chromatographer.
Broad micro theme. Science and tech. Environment. To test water quality right in the field.
Without needing to send samples to a lab. Let's talk about the portable ion chromatograph.
The basic technology is ion chromatography.
This is a standard chemistry technique used in labs to separate ions and polar molecules based on their electrical charge.
A very precise way to identify and quantify different chemicals dissolved in a water sample.
Correct? The new innovation is a portable, field-deployable version of this lab equipment called Aquamonitrix.
It uses UV absorbance to specifically detect nitrate and nitrite in soil pore water in real time.
These are harmful anions that often come from agricultural fertilizer runoff and can contaminate groundwater.
Leading to health problems and eutrophication of water bodies.
Yes, the application of this technology is very relevant for our region.
It can be used for precision agriculture, monitoring the nitrogen cycle to make fertilizer use more efficient.
And less polluting,
It can also be adapted to detect other harmful substances like arsenic in groundwater.
which is a major public health issue in parts of India and Bangladesh.
Exactly. This is a great example of taking advanced laboratory technology and making it rugged and accessible for real-time environmental monitoring.
Practicing.
The Aquamonitrix is a portable ion chromatograph that uses UV absorbance to detect harmful anions like nitrate and nitrite in water, with applications in monitoring agricultural pollution and arsenic contamination.
In short, we can now take the chemistry lab to the river.
Instead of taking a sample from the river to the lab.
Yes.
Question corner. Optical illusions.
Broad micro team, science biology.
If you look it up online, you'll see 3 Pac-Man-like shapes arranged in a triangle with a bite taken out of each one.
Even though there are no lines drawn to connect them, your brain clearly and vividly sees a bright white triangle sitting on top of 3 black circles.
So what's happening?
The magic is not on the page. It's happening inside your brain's visual cortex.
There are specific neurons in your brain called IC encoder neurons, which stand for illusory contour encoders.
These neurons have one primary job, to make sense of an incomplete and messy world.
When they see the gaps and the specific alignment of the Pac-Man shapes, they make a prediction. The most logical prediction is that there is a white triangle covering up parts of 3 black circles.
Correct. So they actively fill in the missing edges of the triangle for you.
Your perception is not just a passive recording of reality. It's an active, creative construction based on your brain's best guess.
Exactly. This shows how our brains are constantly working to find patterns and create meaning even when the data is incomplete.
Rehearse this. Optical illusions like the Kanisa triangle work because specialized IC encoder neurons in the visual cortex predict and fill in missing information to create a coherent image, demonstrating that perception is an active construction, not a passive recording. To a complex piece of modern Indian history.
Let's discuss a little-known resistance in Malabar region. Broad micro-theme. History.
This refers to the Malabar Rebellion of 1921.
Also known as the Mapla or Mapila riots in Kerala.
The nature of this event is complex and still debated by historians. It had multiple dimensions.
Anti-colonial, agrarian.
And it had a strong connection to the Khilafat movement, giving it a religious dimension.
So the debate continues whether it should be seen as a nationalist uprising, an agrarian revolt, or a communal conflict.
Yes, leaders like Ali Musaliar are central to its history. Key facts to remember: the year 1921, the multiple causes, and its geography in the Malabar region of Kerala. In short, the Malabar Rebellion of 1921 was a multifaceted uprising with anti-colonial, agrarian, and religious dimensions, and its historical interpretation remains a subject of debate.
A complex event with many layers. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. The 1921 Malabar Rebellion was a complex event with interconnected anti-colonial, agrarian, and Khilafat movement elements.
From history to a major advance in AI reasoning.
Topic: How the DeepSeek R1 AI model was taught to teach itself to reason.
Broad micro theme, science and tech. A Chinese LLM called DeepSeek R1,
The innovation here is that it was trained to reason using reinforcement learning.
but without human-labeled examples of reasoning.
So it developed thinking steps on its own.
Yes, like reflection and self-correction to arrive at the right answer. This is significant because it reduces the reliance on expensive and time-consuming human data, annotation.
And helps the AI develop a more robust chain of thought reasoning process.
Correct. Key terms to know: reinforcement learning in AI and chain of thought prompting. To summarize, the DeepSeek R1 model demonstrates that AI can learn complex reasoning skills through reinforcement learning without direct human supervision, a major step towards more autonomous AI.
A big step forward for AI. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. DeepSeek R1 used reinforcement learning to autonomously develop chain of thought reasoning, reducing the need for human labor data.
Now for the long-term effects of a recent pandemic.
Next up, aging arteries, lingering risks, COVID's quiet impact on heart health, broad micro theme, science and tech, health.
The Cartesian study.
Yes, a major study. It is found that a COVID-19 infection can accelerate vascular aging. Basically, it makes your arteries stiffer and older than they should be.
The study found that survivors, especially women, had arteries that were effectively 5 to 10 years older than their chronological age.
How is this measured?
By a higher pulse wave velocity, which is a measure of arterial stiffness. The likely cause is persistent inflammation triggered by the virus.
And it seems women are more affected.
Yes, they may have a stronger long-term immune response that leads to this effect. So the key concepts are vascular aging, pulse wave velocity, and the long-term cardiovascular impacts of long COVID. In short, COVID-19 can cause long-term cardiovascular damage by accelerating arterial aging, particularly in women, due to persistent inflammation.
A serious long-term risk to be aware of. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Long COVID can lead to accelerated vascular aging, indicated by increased pulse wave velocity, posing a lingering risk to heart health.
Now for a drug trade issue with major international implications.
Let's discuss. Why is India on the US blacklist on fentanyl?
Broad micro theme, international relations.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid 50 times stronger than heroin.
And it's the leading cause of overdose deaths in the US. A massive crisis there. The issue for India is not fentanyl itself, but the precursor chemicals used to make it, like NPP and 4-ANPP.
And India is a major producer of these legal chemicals.
Yes, which have legitimate industrial uses. The US has designated India as a major illicit drug-producing transit country because some of these precursor chemicals are allegedly being diverted from legal industries in India to the illicit drug trade that supplies cartels in Mexico.
So for the exam, the key points are fentanyl's definition as a synthetic opioid and the issue of precursor chemical regulation and diversion.
To summarize, India has been blacklisted by the US not for producing fentanyl, but due to the alleged diversion of legally produced precursor chemicals into the illicit global drug trade.
A major diplomatic issue. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The US has designated India as a major drug transit country due to the diversion of precursor chemicals like NPP and 4-ANPP, which are used to manufacture fentanyl.
Now for a strategic shift in West Asia.
Topic. What is the significance of Saudi-Pakistan Pact? Broad micro theme. International relations.
A mutual defense agreement?
Yes, between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. The core principle is aggression against one is aggression against both.
A classic collective defense pact. This is very significant.
Why?
It shows that Saudi Arabia is diversifying its security partnerships beyond the US, especially after recent security challenges in the Gulf.
And for Pakistan?
It's a way to secure financial aid and deepen its strategic relationship. Geopolitically, it signals a shift in the Gulf security architecture.
With Pakistan taking on a more formal role as a security provider.
Correct. So the key concept here is collective defense. And it's important to understand the India-Saudi-Pakistan geopolitical triangle. In short, the Saudi-Pakistan Mutual Defense Pact reflects Saudi Arabia's move towards a more independent foreign policy and solidifies Pakistan's role as a key security partner in the region.
A big move in regional security. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The Saudi-Pakistan Defence Pact is a collective defense agreement that signals a shift in West Asian security alignments, with Saudi Arabia diversifying its partnerships beyond the US.
From geopolitics to a new development in biofuels.
Let's look at, is it feasible to blend isobutanol and diesel? Broad micro theme. Science and tech.
A pilot project is underway.
To blend isobutanol with diesel. So why isobutanol?
We already blend ethanol with petrol in India, but ethanol doesn't blend well with diesel.
And isobutanol does?
Yes, it has better miscibility or ability to mix with diesel. It can also be made from sugarcane or corn.
It's also safer.
It has a higher flash point. This could be a way to introduce a biofuel component into diesel, which is the major fuel used in India's transport sector. For the exam, remember the properties of isobutanol versus ethanol and the term cetane number, which is a measure of diesel quality. To summarize, isobutanol is being tested as a diesel blend because it mixes better with diesel than ethanol does, offering a potential pathway for greening the heavy transport sector.
An interesting development for our energy security. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Isobutanol, a biofuel with a higher flashpoint and better miscibility than ethanol, is being explored as a blending agent for diesel fuel.
Now let's demystify some high-tech computing.
Topic:
How different are supercomputers to normal computers?
broad micro theme.
Science and tech.
The key difference is the architecture.
My laptop uses a single CPU with a few cores.
Supercomputers use massive parallel computing, meaning thousands of CPUs and GPUs work together on a single complex problem,
Like weather forecasting,
or drug discovery,
their performance is measured in flops,
floating point operations per second. The current scale is exaflops.
which is a billion operations per second. In India, the National Supercomputing Mission, NSM, is driving development with CDAC's Param series and the Airavit supercomputer. Key terms to remember: flops, parallel computing, and India's National Supercomputing Mission. In short, supercomputers achieve immense speed through massive parallel computing measured in flops, and India is advancing its capabilities through the National Supercomputing Mission.
Mind-boggling speeds. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. Supercomputers utilize massive parallel computing architecture to perform calculations measured in flops, far exceeding the capability of normal computers.
From supercomputers to a super explosion in space.
Let's talk about astronomers have spotted the biggest bangs since the Big Bang. Broad micro theme. Science and tech, astrophysics.
Extreme nuclear transients, or ENTs.
A new class of cosmic events. About 10 times more energetic than even the most powerful gamma ray bursts.
The likely mechanism is a supermassive black hole ripping apart a very massive star in a tidal disruption event, TDE.
But on a much larger scale than we've seen before.
Yes, as the star's debris spirals into the black hole's accretion disk, it releases an incredible amount of energy. So for the exam, you should know what transients are in astronomy and the difference in scale between GRBs and these new, more powerful ENTs. To summarize, astronomers have found a new, extremely powerful type of cosmic explosion called an ENT, likely caused by a supermassive black hole destroying a massive star.
The universe is always full of surprises. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Extreme nuclear transients, ENTs, are a newly discovered class of cosmic events more powerful than gamma ray bursts, thought to be caused by large-scale tidal disruption events.
Now for a fun statistical concept with a serious history.
Topic: what is it? German tank problem. Broad micro theme. Science and tech, statistics.
This is a famous statistical estimation method.
Used to estimate the total size of a population from a small sample of serial numbers.
It got its name during World War II. The Allies used the serial numbers on captured German tanks to accurately estimate Germany's total tank production.
And their statistical estimates were more accurate than their intelligence reports.
Far more. The same principle can be used today for things like estimating the population of a rare species or defective products from a factory. All you need to remember is the name and its application. In short, the German tank problem is a statistical technique for estimating a population size based on the serial numbers observed in a small sample.
A great real-world example of statistics in action. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The German tank problem is a real-world application of statistical inference used to estimate a total population size from a sample of serial numbers.
Now for another perspective on the India-China border.
The topic: the mapping of the India-China border. Broad micro theme. International relations history.
This source contests the idea that the border was always undefined,
It cites old Manchu maps from the 1700s.
which apparently show the boundary of Tibet ending at the Himalayan watershed. This would mean that Arunachal Pradesh was never part of Tibet.
It also argues that at the Simla Conference of 1914, China acknowledged this.
Yes, the argument is that Zhou Enlai later shifted China's stance in the 1950s and 60s, calling the border a historical question to suit China's political goals. So the key points here are the significance of the Manchu maps and the Simla Accord of 1914 as evidence for India's claims. To summarize, this perspective argues that historical maps and agreements, including Manchu-era maps and the Simla Accord, provide a strong basis for India's border claims, which China later disputed for political reasons.
A very important counter-narrative. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. Historical evidence, such as Manchu maps and the 1914 Simla Accord, is cited to support the argument that the Himalayan watershed forms the traditional boundary, a stance China later rejected.
Let's talk about the impact of trade wars on a key Indian industry.
Topic:
How is the jewelry sector coping with US tariffs?
broad macro theme. Economy.
The US has imposed a 50% tariff on Indian diamonds and jewelry.
Which has heavily impacted the industry hubs in Surat and Mumbai.
The sector, which is dominated by MSMEs and is very labor-intensive, is now demanding relief.
What are their key demands?
1. To increase the export obligation period. And 2. To allow units in special economic zones, SEZs, to sell a portion of their goods in the domestic market.
A process known as reverse job work.
Correct. Currently, SEZ units are primarily for export only. So for the exam, you should understand basic SEZ rules, especially regarding sales in the domestic tariff area, DTA.
In short, faced with high US tariffs, India's jewelry sector is seeking policy changes, such as relaxed export norms and domestic sales permissions for SEZ units to mitigate the impact.
A tough time for the industry.
Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. India's jewelry sector, hit by US tariffs, is demanding policy relief, including allowing SEZ units to sell in the domestic tariff area.
Now for India's ambitious goals in clean energy.
Let's discuss. IPR Gandhinagar proposes roadmap for India's fusion power plants, broad micro theme, science and tech.
The Institute for Plasma Research, IPR.
It has proposed a roadmap for India to develop a fusion power demonstration reactor by 2060. The project is called SST Bharat.
The technology is based on magnetic confinement of superheated plasma in a device called a tokamak.
And India is a partner in the international ITER project in France.
Yes, which aims to achieve a Q value of 10. Q is the ratio of energy output to input. So Q value greater than 1 means you get more energy out than you put in.
And IPR already operates a research tokamak called SST1.
Yes, so this roadmap builds on that experience. Key terms to remember: nuclear fusion, tokamak, the ITER project, and the role of IPR Gandhinagar. To summarize, India has a long-term roadmap for developing fusion energy centered on building a superconducting tokamak, building on its experience with the ITER project and domestic research.
The ultimate clean energy source. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. India's fusion energy roadmap, SST Bharat, aims to build a demonstration tokamak reactor by 2060, leveraging its partnership in the international ITR project.
From one energy topic to another, and the paradox of AI.
Topic: will AI fix India's energy demand, or will its own needs snowball?
Broad micro theme, science and tech economy.
The AI dilemma.
On one hand, AI can make our power grids much more efficient through smart grid management.
But on the other hand, AI itself, particularly the data centers that run it, consumes a massive amount of power.
The power consumption of data centers is projected to double globally by 2030.
They also have a huge water footprint because they need vast amounts of water for cooling. For India, which is the world's third largest energy consumer, this is a major challenge. We might save energy on one end and consume much more on the other.
The dual environmental impact of data centers, both energy and water consumption. In short, AI presents an energy paradox for India. It can optimize the grid, but its own massive energy and water consumption from data centers could cancel out the benefits.
A classic double-edged sword. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. AI offers solutions for energy efficiency via smart grids, but the exponential growth of energy-intensive data centers poses a significant challenge to India's power supply.
Now for some science of a very different and much tastier flavor.
Next up, scientists can tune the flavor of chocolates by tweaking microbes.
Broad micro theme, science and tech.
The flavor of chocolate isn't just from the cocoa bean.
It's from the fermentation process it undergoes after harvesting. This fermentation is driven by a succession of microbes, bacteria, and yeast. The innovation is to move from spontaneous, unpredictable fermentation to using curated starter cultures.
A synthetic mix of specific desirable microbes.
Yes, by controlling the microbial community, chocolatiers can precisely control the fermentation process and produce consistent, high-quality, and even customized flavors.
It turns the art of chocolate making into a science.
Exactly. The key takeaway is the crucial role of microbes in food processing, specifically in cocoa fermentation. To summarize, scientists can now control the flavor profile of chocolate by using specific microbial starter cultures during fermentation, turning it from an art into a repeatable science.
Sounds delicious. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. The flavor of chocolate is developed during microbial fermentation. Using starter cultures allows for precise control over this process to create desired flavors.
Now for a deep question about the very idea of citizenship in India.
The topic: citizens, domicile migrants. Why should we worry about provincial citizenship? Broad micro theme: Indian polity.
The rise of son of the soil politics.
Yes, provincial citizenship. States are increasingly using domicile requirements to restrict access to jobs and educational institutions.
This challenges the core principle of single Indian citizenship.
Article 16(2) of the Constitution prohibits discrimination in public employment based on place of birth or residence.
While Parliament can make exceptions for certain states under Article 16(3), these state-level policies create barriers for interstate migrants and foster a sense of exclusion.
It undermines national unity.
It does. So the key concepts are domicile versus citizenship and the provisions of Article 16 of the Constitution. In short, the rise of domicile-based restrictions by states or provincial citizenship challenges India's constitutional guarantee of single citizenship and creates barriers for internal migrants.
A very important debate for national integration. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The concept of provincial citizenship based on domicile rules for jobs conflicts with Article 16's prohibition of discrimination based on place of birth and the principle of single Indian citizenship.
From a threat to our national fabric to a threat to our lifeline river.
Topic: Study finds the Ganga River is drawing faster than in 1300 years.
Broad theme, environment and geography.
This is truly alarming. A study using tree ring analysis, a method of paleoclimatology, has found an unprecedented decline in the Ganga's base flow since the 1990s.
The causes are a combination of factors. 1. A weakening summer monsoon, partly linked to Indian Ocean warming.
2. Unsustainable groundwater extraction for agriculture.
And 3. The impact of aerosols or air pollution, which can alter rainfall patterns.
This is a critical issue for the 600 million people who depend on the Ganga basin.
It is. For the exam, key points are the factors affecting the Indian monsoon and the use of tree ring dating, dendrochronology, in climate studies. To summarize, a combination of climate change, groundwater over-extraction, and pollution is causing the Ganga's flow to decline at a rate not seen in over a millennium, threatening regional water security.
Truly alarming finding. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Paleoclimatological data from tree rings shows the Ganga's base flow is declining at an unprecedented rate due to a weaker monsoon, groundwater extraction, and aerosols.
Now for a novel approach to controlling a deadly disease.
Next up, can an ivermectin pill keep malaria from being transmitted? Broad micro-theme, science and tech, health.
Mass drug administration of ivermectin.
Humans. How does it work?
Ivermectin is an endectocide, meaning it kills parasites both inside and outside the body.
So when a mosquito bites a human who has taken the drug,
It ingests the medicated blood and the mosquito dies. This breaks the transmission cycle of malaria.
it's essentially turning humans into mosquito traps?
Yes. Trials in Kenya have shown it can reduce malaria cases, but there are concerns about developing drug resistance in mosquitoes. Key terms to remember: ivermectin's use in vector control and the definition of an endectocide. In short, administering ivermectin to humans can help control malaria by killing the mosquitoes that feed on them, acting as a form of community-wide vector control, though resistance is a risk.
An innovative strategy. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Ivermectin, an endectocide, can be used in mass drug administrations to control malaria by killing mosquitoes that bite treated individuals.
Now for a quick note on an AI tool that many of us are starting to use.
The topic: has AI finally solved your email problem?
Broad micro theme, science and tech.
This is about AI tools like Microsoft's Copilot for email. The source notes that this has low specific value for prelims.
But the insight is interesting. The conclusion is that these tools solve the typing problem, but they don't solve the decision and thinking problem.
They can help you write faster, but not think better.
Exactly. There's a risk of over-reliance in losing critical thinking skills. So it's just a general tech trend to be aware of.
Time for a second set of quick snapshots. Topic: snapshots, Santorini, Indus dolphins, wastewater. Broad micro theme: miscellaneous S&T environment.
Okay, first, Santorini.
Geologists have found that the famous volcanoes on the Greek island are all linked by a single massive magma chamber hidden deep underground.
Second, our national aquatic animal, the Indus River dolphin, which is functionally blind and uses echolocation, has been found to be ingesting microplastics.
This makes them a key indicator species for plastic pollution.
Yes. And third, a study on wastewater found that many pharmaceuticals, like painkillers and antibiotics, persist even after treatment.
Posing a risk of bioaccumulation in the environment.
Exactly. For MCQs, remember the status of the Indus River dolphin as the national aquatic animal and the concept of bioaccumulation. In short, these snapshots highlight hidden connections in geology and the pervasive nature of modern pollutants in our ecosystems.
Very insightful. Let's head to the northernmost part of India now. The topic: why is Ladakh's tribal population restive? Broad micro theme: Indian polity.
After the abrogation of Article 370 in 2019,
Ladakh was made a union territory without a legislature. The local population has several demands.
the key demands are: 1. Inclusion in the 6th schedule of the Constitution to protect their tribal rights and land.
2. Full statehood for Ladakh.
And 3. Separate Lok Sabha seats for Leh and Kargil. The core concern is the protection of their unique land, culture, and job opportunities from outsiders.
Especially given the region's extreme ecological fragility.
Yes. So for the exam, the key points are the provisions of the 6th schedule and the administrative structure of a UT without a legislature. To summarize, the population of Ladakh is demanding 6th schedule status and statehood to safeguard their tribal identity, land, and economic future in the post-Article 370 era.
A critical issue for the region. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The primary demands in Ladakh are for statehood and inclusion in the 6th schedule, which provides constitutional protection and autonomy to tribal areas.
Now for a look at US immigration policy and its impact on India.
Let's discuss. What does Trump's latest H-1B directive state?
Broad micro theme, international relations. The proposal is to dramatically hike the H-1B visa fee.
Potentially to as much as $100,000.
The stated goal is to curb the use of the H-1B program for what is termed cheap labor and to promote a higher American policy,
This would have a major impact on Indian IT companies.
which are the biggest users of the H-1B visa program. The H-1B is a non-immigrant visa for workers in specialty occupations and is subject to an annual cap. For the exam, you should know the purpose of the H-1B visa and its importance in the India-US services trade relationship. In short, the proposed hike in H-1B visa fees is a protectionist measure aimed at making it much more expensive for US companies to hire foreign workers, which would significantly affect the Indian IT industry.
A big potential change.
Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The proposal to drastically increase H-1B visa fees is intended to disincentivize the hiring of foreign workers, impacting Indian IT services companies.
From immigration policy to the use of technology in conflict zones.
Topic: How Israel used Azure to monitor Palestinians. Broad micro theme: Science and Tech IR.
This is very concerning.
The source reports that Israel's intelligence units have used Microsoft's Azure cloud computing platform for mass surveillance and real-time transcription of phone calls.
This raises serious ethical questions about the role and complicity of big tech companies in modern conflict and surveillance.
It also brings up the critical issue of digital sovereignty.
Yes, who controls the data and the infrastructure? When a government uses a foreign company's cloud, it raises questions about data privacy and control. So the key concepts are the role of commercial cloud computing in state surveillance and the concept of digital sovereignty. To summarize, the use of commercial cloud platforms like Microsoft Azure for state-level mass surveillance highlights major ethical concerns about tech company complicity and the erosion of digital sovereignty.
A very concerning development. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. The use of commercial cloud infrastructure for mass surveillance raises critical questions about tech ethics, data sovereignty, and the role of corporations in state intelligence operations.
Now for a deep dive into public finance in India.
We are analyzing Indian states' macro-fiscal health. Broad microtheme: Economy.
The post-pandemic trend shows a surge in debt for many states,
There is a significant vertical imbalance in our fiscal federalism.
meaning states are heavily dependent on financial transfers from the center. States have their own tax revenue, like from VAT on petroleum and alcohol, but they also rely heavily on central transfers.
Like their share of GST and grants.
Yes, the source points out that some states like Kerala are heavily reliant on sin goods like alcohol and lottery for their own revenue.
And states like Punjab and Himachal have very high debt-to-GSDP ratios.
Yes, while a mineral-rich state like Odisha has managed to maintain a fiscal surplus. Key terms to remember: fiscal deficit versus revenue deficit, vertical versus horizontal devolution, and the debt-to-GSDP ratio. In short, the fiscal health of Indian states varies widely, with many facing high debt and dependency on central transfers, highlighting structural issues in our fiscal federalism.
A very important topic for mains. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. Post-pandemic, many Indian states face fiscal stress, characterized by high debt-to-GSDP ratios and a vertical fiscal imbalance requiring significant central transfers.
This next one sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, plants talking to each other.
Topic: Clustering maize plants together can improve their insect resistance. Broad micro theme: Science and Tech Biology.
Plant communication.
Yes, plants can warn each other of danger by releasing volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, into the air.
In the case of maize, when plants are crowded and attacked by pests, they release a specific compound called linalool.
This acts as an alarm signal.
Yes, when the neighboring plants smell the linalool, it primes their immune systems to be ready for an attack.
This is a trade-off, as preparing for defense can come at the cost of growth.
And its application in ecological pest control. To summarize, maize plants can communicate threats via airborne chemical signals like linalool, which primes the defenses of nearby plants, a mechanism that could be used in sustainable agriculture.
Nature is amazing. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Plants communicate using volatile organic compounds, VOCs, for example. Maize releases linalool to warn neighbors of pest attacks, triggering their immune response.
Now for a new way of looking at the entire universe.
Topic:
What is it?
Multi-messenger astronomy.
Broad micro theme?
Science and Tech Astrophysics.
A new era in astronomy.
For centuries, we have studied the universe by just observing light. Now, scientists are combining information from multiple messengers.
These messengers are 1. Light, 2. Gravitational waves, 3. High-energy neutrinos, and 4. Cosmic rays.
By combining data from all four, we can get a much more complete picture.
For example, a neutron-star merger was seen in light by telescopes and simultaneously felt in spacetime by gravitational wave detectors like LIGO.
And India's AstroSat is a multi-wavelength observatory.
Yes, a step in this direction. So you must remember the 4 components of multi-messenger astronomy: light, gravitational waves, neutrinos, and cosmic rays. In short, multi-messenger astronomy provides a holistic view of the universe by combining observations from light, gravitational waves, neutrinos, and cosmic rays.
A new window to the cosmos. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Multi-messenger astronomy integrates signals from electromagnetic radiation, gravitational waves, neutrinos, and cosmic rays to create a comprehensive understanding of cosmic events.
Let's come back to Earth and talk about freedom of speech and the law.
Sabik, why was X's censorship challenge rejected? Broad microtheme: Indian polity law.
X Corp, formerly Twitter,
They challenged the Indian government's orders to block certain accounts and tweets. These orders were issued under Section 69A of the IT Act,
the Karnataka High Court dismissed their petition. The court's ruling was based on a key constitutional principle.
which is
Article 19, which guarantees the right to freedom of speech and expression, is a fundamental right reserved for Indian citizens. It cannot be claimed by foreign corporations.
so foreign entities must comply with local laws.
Yes, The government issues these takedown notices through an online platform called the Sahyog portal. For the exam, the key points are the applicability of Article 19 to foreign companies and corporations and the powers of the government under Section 69A of the IT Act. To summarize, the court rejected Ex-Corp's challenge by ruling that fundamental rights like free speech under Article 19 are not available to foreign companies, which must comply with Indian law.
A landmark judgment on the rights of foreign tech companies. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. The Karnataka High Court ruled that foreign corporations cannot claim Article 19 rights and must therefore comply with blocking orders issued under Section 69A of the IT Act.
From Indian law to an international agreement on sensitive technology,
Let's discuss the Wassenaar Arrangement, the need to reform export control regimes, broad micro-theme, international relations.
the Wassenaar Arrangement is a multilateral export control regime for conventional arms and dual-use goods.
Dual use meaning they can have both civilian and military applications. And India became a member in 2017.
The challenge today is that the old model of controlling the physical export of goods is becoming obsolete.
How do you control the export of cloud-based software or spyware?
Exactly. The regime needs to be reformed to cover these new digital services and surveillance technologies. For the exam, you should know the mandate of the Wassenaar Arrangement and India's membership status in the 4 major export control regimes. In short, the Wassenaar Arrangement, an export control regime for dual-use goods, needs urgent reform to address the challenges posed by the intangible transfer of digital technologies and surveillance software.
A critical issue for global security. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. The Wassenaar Arrangement, of which India is a member, is an export control regime facing challenges in regulating the transfer of non-physical dual-use technologies like cloud services and software.
From controlling tech on Earth to building a telescope on the moon.
Topic. Scientists turn to the moon to catch space-time's faintest music. Broad micro-theme. Science and tech. Astrophysics.
The project is called LILA, the Laser Interferometer Lunar Antenna.
A proposal to build a gravitational wave detector on the moon. Why the moon?
2 huge advantages. It's seismically much quieter than Earth, and it's a natural vacuum.
So you don't need to build massive vacuum tubes like for LIGO?
Yes, this would allow it to detect very low-frequency gravitational waves in the decihertz range, which are invisible to Earth-based detectors.
The main target for Lila is to find elusive intermediate mass black holes.
Correct. So, the key concepts are the advantages of the moon for astronomy and the different frequencies of gravitational waves. To summarize, placing a gravitational wave detector on the moon would allow scientists to detect low-frequency signals that are impossible to catch on Earth, opening a new window to the universe.
This is incredibly ambitious. Now pause and practice saying this part aloud. A lunar-based gravitational wave detector like LILA could leverage the moon's seismic quiet and vacuum to detect low-frequency waves from sources like intermediate mass black holes.
And for our final topic, an inspiring conservation story from South America.
The topic. Suriname pledges to protect 90% of forests. Broad micro-theme, environment and ecology.
Suriname, a small Amazonian nation.
It has pledged to protect 90% of its massive forest cover.
This is hugely significant because Suriname is already one of the few carbon-negative countries in the world.
Meaning?
Its vast forests absorb more CO2 than the entire country emits.
Yes.
The goal of this pledge is to cement its commitment to biodiversity conservation and potentially leverage its status to earn carbon credits.
Other carbon-negative countries include Bhutan and Panama.
Correct. Remember the concept of a carbon-negative country and the geography of the Amazon rainforest? In short, Suriname's pledge to protect 90% of its forests reinforces its status as a carbon-negative country and a global leader in conservation.
A great example for the world. Now, pause and practice saying this part aloud. Suriname, a carbon-negative nation in the Amazon, has pledged to protect 90% of its forest cover, a major commitment to biodiversity and climate mitigation.
Wow. What a marathon session.
Yes.
So हमने 79 topics पर गहरी चर्चा की है.
Absolutely.
We've covered Indian polity, S&T, environment, economy, IR, or social issues.
Let's do a super fast recap of some of the key highlights. Okay, rapid fire. Indian polity. We saw how downgrading a state to a UT challenges the basic structure of federalism. We discussed the strict bail conditions under UAPA, the debate on the 50% reservation cap, and the rise of provincial citizenship.
Environment. We learned about the accelerated sea level rise near the Maldives, shown by coral microatolls, the shocking AQLI report on India's air quality, and how vultures are key to the One Health concept. Or Suriname being a carbon-negative champion.
Science and tech. We explored mind-bending concepts like Majorana fermions for quantum computing and multi-messenger astronomy. We also saw practical innovations like the Cerebro brain scanner and the sterile insect technique.
Economy. We decoded regulatory assets in the power sector, understood the economic term involution from China's EV market, and saw the challenges faced by India's gig workers.
And international relations. We tracked the history of the India-China border dispute, from the McMahon line to the failure to define the LAC, and we discussed the strategic significance of the new Saudi-Pakistan Defence Pact.
अब आपके लिए कुछ quick challenges. इन्हें जोर से बोलकर practice करना to test your recall. 1. Explain the difference between a wet lease and a damp lease in one sentence. 2. What is the ELIZA effect in the context of AI chatbots? 3. Name the 3 key minerals found in Eastern DRC that are vital for modern tech. 4. What is the One Health concept and how do vultures fit into it? 5. Define involution as it applies to an economy. And 6. What is the core principle of the sterile insect technique, SIT?
Great questions. और अब आखिरी challenge.
Huh. Considering the rise of provincial citizenship and domicile-based restrictions, draft a 150-word argument on whether Article 16(3) of the Constitution needs a relook in the context of interstate migration. इस पे थोड़ा सोचना.
That was intense, but hopefully super useful. आपके revision के लिए perfect है. If you loved this detailed चर्चा, please support us by hitting that subscribe button, comment below and tell us which topic was your favorite and share this with your friends. हम मिलेंगे अगले सेशन में और भी knowledge के साथ. तब तक पढ़ते रहो.